Okay, we're going to start. We have okay. So first, we acknowledge that the land upon which we gather is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. And under call to order, I just have, I know that we have Councillor Duran calling in, correct? And who else? Ramona
Yeah,
Doyle
I'm here, Mr. Brown.
and Councillor McKinnon? Okay. So they will. And I just want to make an announcement here. This is from the Sherwood Parkdale Rural Minor Hockey Association. A huge thank you goes out to our outgoing president, Justin Mattart, Councillor Justin Mattart. Justin served on the Sherwood Parkdale Rural Minor Hockey Association board for 8 years, the last 4 as president. Justin did an outstanding job leading the association. He will stay on the board for 1 more season in the past president's role. And Justin was presented a plaque recognizing his service to the community by the new president, Craig Jones. So thank you for your service to the community, Councilman Carr. And we're all aware of the situation in Nova Scotia, and I was just talking to MP Wayne Easter about Halifax and Yarmouth. So the mayors of Halifax, Mike Savage and Pam Mould, I'm sure are having difficulty because of these forest fires. So our thoughts and prayers go out to those two communities and all of Nova Scotia because it's so close to home. Okay, I have approval of the agenda. Councillor Ramsey.
Your Worship, I'd like to move G up to B, I believe. No, are we still going to go with A?
A shouldn't take, Richard, Mr. McEwen, A shouldn't take too long? No.
Okay.
A, B, and then C would be G and G would be C. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So where it says water and sewer utility resolution, basic income guarantee, C will become protective and emergency services bylaw reading resolution as C, and C will drop down to
B.
G. Or you can go right, follow suit. Okay.
Okay.
Seconder? Okay. Councillor Beck, seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against? Councillor Duran?
In favor.
Okay. I believe Councillor Twill can't vote on it because he's in conflict of interest. Okay.
Thank you.
So we have resolution, first resolution, and do you want to read the resolution, CAO Eleanor Mohammed?
Thank you, Your Worship. Water and Sewer Utility Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Bob Duran, seconded by Councillor Justin Mattart. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown proceeds to petition Douglas Realty into bankruptcy and accepts the proposal from Grant Thornton LLP in the amount of $17,000 plus applicable taxes to act as trustee in the bankruptcy proceedings related to Douglas Realty Limited. And further, that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
So the resolution is on the floor. Councillor Ramsey, do you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay, 8-0 with, no.
McKinnon is in favor.
Who's that? Okay, so it's 9-0. And Councillor Bernard? Absent. Okay. Thank you. So the next presentation, we have the Honourable Wayne Easter, former MP of Malpeque, and Marie Birch. Marie, are you still at the Cooper Institute? Or is it? It is. Okay. And are you working with the Cooper Institute as part of this basic income guarantee presentation, or is this your own initiative? Okay. Is it, are you with the Cooper Institute, Marie, or are you with the,
Marie's here. Stuffled over there here now. She's still with the Cooper Institute.
okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, I am.
So-
I'm still here even. That's a bigger surprise.
You're a lot, hey.
I'm sorry,
you're
my
good-
hearing is really
You're good
bad.
with longevity.
So Wayne will have to tell me if I
So,
miss something. Yes, I'm
Marie
still
and
with
Wayne,
Coopers.
we have about 15 minutes for presentation questions, and then I believe you included a resolution for us to consider this evening's meeting.
Yep.
Start ahead. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I'll just give a quick rundown of what we're talking about here. First of all, can you hear me okay? Yeah, right, thank you. And so I'll take my 5 minutes and Wayne will take his, and we'll do it really fast. Just a little review, because I know you got a lot of documents in the last few days, because I've been sending documents to you. Just the question, what is basic income guarantee? And it is a cash payment sent regularly, maybe monthly, for example, to individuals who need it to meet their basic needs and to live in dignity. Any adult who has less income than they require to meet their basic needs is eligible. The payment would go to anyone eligible, regardless of their work status. The payment comes from government, from two levels of government, the province and the federal government. To work in PEI, basic income guarantee would require that support, provincial and federal. So what are we proposing for PEI? Our goal is to establish a federally, provincially funded, province-wide demonstration program of 5 to 7 years of basic income guarantee. It would be income tested and universally accessible to those who need it to cover their basic needs, and that's it. It would bring all islanders up to the official poverty line, whatever that happens to be at a given time. Right now, it's market basket measure. It would be independent of attachment to workforce. So just a little review of what the province is saying. The Premier has said over and over again that he is in favor of basic income. He's made no he's never gone back on that. And during the election, this past provincial election, he and all the leaders of the provincial parties came out in favor of basic income guarantee. So the province, and also the province has, in the legislature, has passed 3 unanimous votes in favor of basic income in the past. We were just not really sure about this current legislature, because it's a new legislature, since the election. However, it's been really interesting that in this past week, the minister responsible for social development and seniors said in the House of Commons, and I'm going to quote her exactly, she said, this government believes in basic income guarantee, and everyone in this room knows that. She was a little annoyed. But we need the federal government to come on board so we can put basic income guarantee in place, and so that we can eliminate poverty in Prince Edward Island. So that came from the minister responsible, who would be responsible for this work. So we just come to the question then, she made it really clear that there's a blockage yet with the federal government. There's been no real response, although the Premier was quite clear that he had already presented the document Wayne will be talking about, presented it personally to the Prime Minister. So we know that much has happened. So the question is, why are we coming to municipalities? Because municipalities really don't get involved generally in social programs like funding, people without sufficient income. But we decided that it was really important across the country to have municipalities come out strongly and say, we want the province and the federal government to sit down and talk about this seriously. That's all we're asking. This started in British Columbia, and so that it spread in British Columbia so that the Federation now has a resolution passed. And it's saying just the same as we'll be saying today, to support the province and the federal government getting together. Interestingly, across the country, we have groups of people who are working for basic income, and one of their major goals is to have set up in PEI a demonstration program of 5 to 7 years. That's what they're committed to, and it's really interesting to hear people from, Ontario and BC, and didn't really hear from Alberta yet, but we are hearing all across the country that people are supporting PEI to get this demonstration project. So I'm going to turn this over to Wayne, who's going to talk about the proposal that we have.
Okay, thank you, Council and Mayor, for having us here today. I think two questions. Why would we be appearing before a City Council? I think Maria's answered that question. And I'd ask everyone, is the current social safety net working? And I think we all know it's not. Poverty's not reduced to the point it should be. And so basic income guarantee is a proposal that's been bandied around ever since they did a trial run in Dauphin, Manitoba. I think in the 70s or 80s there was a trial run in Ontario. And so I became part of a group, Coalition Canada, in November 2021. There's some other ex-MPs on there, people from all parties actually, a number of economists and others. And we've been working basically on a monthly basis to put together a package that the mayor has, which is a proposal for a guaranteed basic income benefit in Prince Edward Island. In terms of looking at that, we went through every scenario you could think of. We come up with lots of warts and other things doing it. But we've now come down to this document that the mayor has. And I think Marie explained it pretty well. It is a basic income guarantee that would set a level for individuals and for families to give some security in terms of economic benefit for those individuals and that family. It would be done on the basis of a census family. In other words, then it would include people between 18 and 65, the Canada Child Benefit, and the old age security and the disability benefit would cover those outside that framework. So at the current levels, I mean, we're not talking big money, but we're trying to give people the security where if they had the security of income for food and other items, then it is our belief that it would improve physical and mental health. It would give people the opportunity to maybe take some skills training to benefit themselves. It would basically give them some income security. That's the bottom line. And although we're a national grouping at Coalition Canada, it was decided, look, what we really need to do is get one demonstration project in the country. Really, 3 would be ideal if you had one here, one in Ontario, one in part of a city or whatever, because these things have been tried before and nobody's got the data. So Prince Edward Island would be the ideal place. We're not a big population. We've got cities, we've got rural areas, we've got hospitals, we've got schools, we got everything that a big province has. So a demonstration project here would be the ideal place to do it. It would need to be in place for 5 to 7 years. And the most critical part, yes, there'll be warts found in the system, no question in my mind, but the most critical part would be the evaluation, the data collection, the monitoring of it, so that at the end of the day, you have real evidence. I, on Saturday morning, and just as an aside, have a breakfast meeting with a group of business people. And not all of them, but a good many of them are opposed. Oh, Wayne, we're gonna, we won't be able to get labor, it's problem enough now. I say to them, look, I'm willing to put my beliefs on the line. You put your beliefs on the line, and let's actually deal with real-time data. So let's do the demonstration project and get it done. Federal government has to come inside. There's a lot of support in Parliament for a basic income guarantee, but there would have to be assured funding from the federal government and the province for the 5 to 7 years to see it to reality and do the evaluations that are necessary to find out where we're really at. So I'll leave it at that and go to, just one key point I should make. Our analysis shows that if we had this system in place, it would reduce deep poverty to 0, and it would reduce poverty generally from about the current 10% here to about a little over 2.3, 2.5%. So it would make those measures, but evaluation is key, and for the municipalities, to be blunt about it, there will be a resolution coming up, I think, at the Atlantic Municipalities meeting. Mike Savage has been a promoter of this ever since I knew him as an MP, and the last thing we would want is somebody on PEI. If we can get this moving through the system, somebody else come out from left field or right field and say, oh, I just don't know about this. So we need to try and have everybody inside. There won't be an impact on municipalities cost-wise. I think there will be a benefit to you in terms of some of the programs and some of the issues that you have to deal with every day on the ground in a positive way. So, any questions? Fire away.
Wayne, Marie, thank you very much. I know you've had many meetings with municipalities in the area. Councillor Beck and I attended the one that was at the Charlottetown Library Learning Centre with, I believe, Town of Stratford and Town of Cornwall. We had another meeting with the Capital Area Mayors meeting that you made the presentation, and I believe that the other municipalities in the capital region are just waiting to see what we're going to do, and tonight is an opportunity, and floor is open for any questions. Councillor Tweel?
Thank you for your presentation, Wayne. And thank you. Good presentation. This concept has been worked on for a number of years now. It's been discussed different groups, whether it be NGOs and working with members of Parliament. If I'm given to understand that there's different forms or different types of basic incomes, I understand that the Federation of Labor, the Prince Edward Island Federation of Labor, has worked very diligently and has dedicated their respective organization to work on basic income. And I believe presentations have been made to Ottawa, to the appropriate portfolios, ministers, and whatnot. So my first question is, with respect to the different formats and different concepts, the concept that you're promoting here tonight, how does that differ from other concepts and other proposals that are being presented and discussed, whether it be in the House of Commons or on the floors of different legislatures across this country?
Well, I think, there's look, I chaired Finance Committee for 6 years, and so I've seen at least a dozen different proposals. And what we tried to do in putting this proposal together, and I think you can talk to people who have been involved in this field for decades, that this is probably the most comprehensive study and proposal that's ever been done on basic income. We determined that there's 3 avenues you could go in terms of determining who should get the benefit and what the amount should be. It'd be the census family is one, the nuclear family is another, and the economic family is another in terms of the data that you got to select from. We chose the census family, which is a little more difficult in one way, but it targets to the benefit in those families to those most in need. It would be easier to do in what's called the nuclear family, but what you could have is, in a nuclear family, is kids who are home, families very wealthy, and so the kids are going to get that money and really they shouldn't be, because they've got the means to be able to accommodate their needs. So we chose the census family in order to better target it rather than the nuclear family, to target where the money is really needed.
Councillor Tree, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, Wayne. So we're targeting the nuclear family.
Targeting the census family. We're using the census family is the approach we're using rather than the nuclear family.
Okay,
Or
so
the economic family.
with the basic income, what is the impact and effect on the workforce, whether it be people that are part-time, seasonal, full-time?
Our determination would be that it would be about, I think it was 0.5%. It'd be very, very small on the workforce, and the only way you'll really know, in all honesty, is do the evaluation in real time. I really think there'd be a benefit to the labor force over the longer haul, in that people with some security can go to educate themselves, feel secure in doing so, take skills training, whatever, and feel secure in doing so, that their families looked after and they can better their lives as a result, and that would add to the workforce down the road. But we, in terms of one of the warts in the system, where there would be, in the beginning at least, a very, very small marginal impact on the labor force. What we tried to do, and in order to see all the details, you really need to go through the report itself. I know it's embargoed as yet, and that's a problem. But it is very, very detailed in the report, and I think you'll find many of the answers there, because as we tried to do it with the economists, we said, look, the good news, the bad news, let's figure it out. And if there's bad news, let's be honest about it and lay it on the table. But the only way you get there is a firm evaluation at the end of the day.
Councillor Matard.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Just a quick question. How would the basic income guarantee coincide or conflict with other programs for low income, for instance, social services, EI, students, low income families and such? Like, would that offset that a bit, or would it be impacted by that as well? Because some of those are based already on levels of income that are coming in.
When we get into this in the beginning, I was thinking there'd be enough savings by dropping this multitude of programs we have and basically just having a basic income guarantee. I was wrong. Because you're going to have to you certainly need the EI system shouldn't change, because that's work related. Some of the other programs are going to be needed, and the way this system would work would be that it is based on your income tax. So it'd be the federal government, so it follows a year behind. So you're going to have a provincial program, in the meantime administration at that level, in order to deal with those that are coming into the system and or moving out. For the demonstration project, you would have to carry somewhat of a parallel system, but this, and I think over time you would be able to reduce those other programs. But you'll need EI, student loans, so on and so forth. Those programs would remain.
Some of those are also impacted by how much income you earn. So if I was on unemployment insurance, earning additional income would reduce potentially my payment structure.
Yeah, it could. It'll be based on your income tax statement filed with Revenue Canada. And that's to simplify the system on the other side. I think the key here, and this is what I'll always come back to, there will be questions that I don't really think there's answers to. And I think that's why, and as was asked earlier, this proposal has been around for years. It's been tried in some areas, but it never carried on long enough to do the evaluation. Those that were in the system in Ontario, where it went 2 years, claim there's tremendous benefit in terms of mental health, security of income as a result, but there's no data to prove it. And so you need the system in place with the data to prove it, to see, will this make a better social safety net at the end of the day and better value for money at the end of the day?
Great, thank you.
Councillor Beck, did you, I think I cut you off. Okay. Councillor,
Sort of understanding, I think when you say census family, that's those who are listed on the census as living at that household. Is that what you mean by a census family? I'm not sure. It's a term I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, it's a family and their children, but it starts at 18. I would say go to the document to get the best explanation. That's an economist that's going to have to explain that to you. But in terms of the nuclear family, that is one that is often used, and they look at the family income as a whole. We're trying to break out into the census family those individuals. Break away from from a family that's got all kinds of income, those individuals that shouldn't be getting the basic income. You'd have to go to the document, I think, Mr. Beck, in order to really understand it, because I will admit, on that one, I have to turn to the economists every time we look at it.
yeah, that's the same question I had, Councillor Beck. It was the nuclear family versus the census family, but I was just looking at the census family based on the census that are taken is it every year or every second year? What do they do census? Every 10 years? Wayne?
No, it's longer period than that. I think it's every 5. Ain't it?
Every 5, yeah. Okay. Okay. Councillor Yankoff?
Thank you, Your Worship. So if we're talking, and I will go to the document, and I know, or the Economist, but when we talk about the census family, if I'm hearing you correctly, if there's an individual who has become estranged from his family for whatever trauma that they may have suffered from, and they are not part of that family, but according to the census, they're still part of that family, and that family has the means to support that person, but that person is, say, not part of that group anymore for whatever reason that might be, whether they're unhoused, living in an encampment. How does that work? What?
Yeah, she said that will be a wart. It would be, I think the easiest way to explain it at the end of the day is the family unit, it amounts to 27,227. That's a family of 2. And then it goes up with each child. So if they're below that number, then they can be brought up to that number in terms of their basic income guarantee, and that would show on their income tax file. It's in terms of how the calculations are done. Marie, did you want to add something?
Do you mean the individual or the family?
No, the family. There's 2 ways you can go. If you're single, the basic income at the moment, it'd be higher than this figure now because we've had 6% inflation. But when we dealt with this figure last fall, the single amount of money was 19,252. Now it's 27,227. That's all outlined for a family. So that's a family of two. So that's outlined in the document.
Final one. So once you turn 18, you become your own census family? Is that
You become an individual.
right? And so then you're your own, you're no longer part of this other group?
That's right.
Okay,
Family of one.
yeah, you're now a family of one. And are you anticipating this could be the elimination of food banks? That we wouldn't require food banks anymore?
I wouldn't go that far. It'd be great if it did, but the intent of it is to get there. I think you would, it does give the security of income up to the basically to the poverty level. So that you have that security income, but there's a lot of other factors that cause people to go to food banks. It just isn't economic, it's addictions, it's a whole lot of other issues, and that's another problem. Our objective here with basic income guarantee is to give individuals and families between 18 and 65 the economic means to be to earn income at the level of poverty, above the level of poverty.
Okay, good, Councilor McCabe, no, you're all right. Councilor Mackler, I know you had pressed you're good. And again, Wayne,
Yes.
Marie, it's more about getting the data through the implementation of this program, correct? That's where we're going with it.
The key point in this proposal here is to have a demonstration project in Prince Edward Island on a basic income guarantee that would be assured to be in place 5 to 7 years. And through that, do the data collection, the evaluation, very, very heavy on every aspect, on mental health and physical health and family violence, et cetera, on poverty, and evaluate it as time goes on to see the real data at the end of the day. Would this be a better system than the current social safety net? What improvements can be made? What provincial programs can be dropped over time if it works as we would envision it to work? That is key.
Yeah. I think one point is really necessary right now to look at, and that is that, like, we're here not to convince you about how this would work or how it wouldn't work. What we want you to do is to support the provincial government and the federal government sitting down at the same table and taking this and seeing what they can do with it. So it's the support to get action from the province and from the federal level. That's what we're asking of you, to support. And so, it would be specifically to ask to write a letter to the Premier and just say, carry on with what you're doing. A letter to the Prime Minister and say, we need you to move a little bit faster on this. Like, that's the meaning of what we're asking of municipalities, to support the process of getting the governments at those two levels together to take this proposal seriously and to move forward with it.
Councilor Duran, Councilor McKinnon, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, if I can.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Marie and Wayne, and it goes back to your presentation, Marie, a year or so ago. I commend you for pushing this ahead, but I have concerns as I did then. I don't have the document in front of me, and you certainly both have great knowledge on it. But what gets me is, I guess everyone gets a check whether you're working or not. And I struggle with, with businesses and PEI here. Some businesses can't open. They have to work reduced hours. If everyone gets a check, then why would I go to work? And I mean, you said it, Wayne. It's to help people. It's to help people get skills. So, would the criteria be part of skills training, and then you would benefit from these funds? I'm all for families that are working, that are struggling. I certainly have compassion for that, but there's also the individual that says, well, this is great. I can get another form of income and I don't have to work for it. Again, I don't have the document in front of me, and I'm just putting those concerns out because, I don't know all about it. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Just to quickly answer that, there's that is a concern. And our analysis with the economists and some of the social activists who had been involved is that it'd be very, very, very minor, and the benefits would outweigh the costs. The benefits in the healthcare system, the mental health, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of directly answering your question, the only way you'll ever determine whether there is a reduction in those or an increase in those unwilling to work would be as you do the evaluation. That's the reality of the world. We're dealing in theories here, but the only way you really get to the end game is do the evaluation and see where it comes. I personally believe that we would be far better off on the mental health and other side issues, food securities, domestic violence, and I really believe people given the opportunity to work, they want to work. I don't think there's that many that want to stay home and watch TV. So the evaluation is what's critical.
Councillor McKinnon?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, and again, thank you, Wayne and Marie. I certainly admire people that have passion for things, and it's undisputed that you guys have a passion for this project, so thank you for that. I know that there's the ask is basically to continue a dialogue between the federal government and the provincial government, correct? That's what you're asking for us to do here tonight, correct?
To basically that the provincial government would negotiate with the federal government for a cost-shared program to implement a basic income guarantee demonstration project on Prince Edward Island for 5 years. That's the ask.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm supportive of that dialogue and the discussions continuing, because it's ultimately coming down to them. It's not going to be decided by municipal councils, as it's a provincial and federal matter that will end up resolving this, whether it gets decided or not. So I'm supportive of continuing the discussion and encouraging the discussion to continue. I know that there was a potential motion circulating around here that might have a whole bunch of whereases and stuff like that. I didn't really see it, but I know it's going around. So I am supportive of the discussion continuing and having it figured out, and whether it goes with whether the pilot goes ahead or the demonstration or whatever terminology we want to call. Beyond that, I don't want to necessarily say I'm in support of it, or am I, because I think sometimes you can, if we endorse that conversation continuing, that could mean that we are endorsing as a council the whole concept. when there's an embargoed report that has all kinds of information that we do not have access to in order to allow us to fully understand what we're endorsing or not endorsing. So I would just be a little careful in terms of the terminology that we're using in terms of what the ask is here. I fully support discussion continuing, collaboration continuing, exploring the concept further. Recognize in the body of work that you and other individuals in Coalition Canada have done. Don't want to diminish that or don't want to put it aside. But I just want to be careful about what we are actually endorsing here tonight. And I would be endorsing of conversation continuing and between the federal government and, so whatever the motion could be contingent upon what I approve here tonight. But I want to be clear that I endorse the conversation continuing. I'm not saying stop, I don't disagree with this. I do have questions. But I do see, I mean, I think we're like all of us, we would love to see better social determinants for our population. So I don't want to say, yeah, you know, this is a terrible idea for that, because there could be those positive outcomes that come with it. So I just want to be a little careful about what we are actually endorsing here tonight, that's all. Knowing full well that I endorse the conversation continuing.
Just to
Wayne.
make clear, there should be absolutely no funding responsibility at the municipal level for this project. It should be carried out by funding by the federal government and the provincial government on a cost shared basis and evaluated over time. But I would point out, look, I think we've seen various concepts of this in place over time. There comes a point in time where discussion has to end, you have to cut the mustard and let's get on with it and do the proper evaluation. So that's where we're at here, is saying, look, here's a proposal, it's well documented. The warts and all are outlined in the report. Let's make a decision, get on with it, evaluate it, and then we're dealing with real data instead of proposals.
Councillor McCabe.
No, I'm just going to concur with Councillor Beck because he's correct about the report that we haven't seen, but I certainly support, and I know our resolution is quite wordy, but I think the resolution can be something as simple to say that we endorse the conversation to continue between the two other levels of government.
The whereas is just cover the area that both of them explained, but the therefore it be resolved that the city of Charlottetown call on the provincial and federal governments to implement a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs. That's all it is.
I think we can ask anybody to implement something we haven't seen. I think the word would be that we would encourage continued conversation or something, but to say we are endorsing implementation would mean that we're endorsing what's in a report that we haven't read. And no disrespect, I trust that your report's wonderful, but it would be that we're supporting conversation to continue.
So therefore it be resolved that the city of Charlottetown call on the provincial and federal governments to what? Continue the dialogue?
Come to the table to further discuss what's been proposed from the province to the second level of government.
Okay, Wayne? No, the report is not available for the public because it's under embargo. Yeah. No, but the resolution will be read aloud. That was a proposed resolution. So I'm using the same yes? That's the resolution here. It's 2 pages. 3 days ago, she sent it. Was this sent? This was sent, the proposed resolution for the Atlantic Mayor's Congress.
Was just a summary of what they presented tonight, but they've actually got a report
Yeah,
that's in
it's
an
all-
embargo that we are not able to see the details.
So Wayne and Marie, are you okay that therefore it be resolved that the city of Charlottetown call on the provincial and federal governments to continue the discussion on guaranteed livable basic income? Is that what you're saying?
I actually think it's better if you call on them to implement a demonstration project in Prince Edward Island, but our only thought on meeting, as I said in the beginning, in the municipalities, is that that the only way we're going to get the evidence to see if this is the real evidence rather than analysis, if it's a better social safety net and improves people's lives, eradicates poverty down at least to 2%, is if we actually get in place a demonstration project and do that evaluation. So I see no harm to the council asking the federal and provincial governments to implement a basic income guarantee that they're funding. I don't see a problem with that. I think if you go with just continue the discussion, I think we've got to cut the mustard. I guess that's what I'm saying. But that's council's decision. We're just here to tell you we've been asked to explain as best we can, and we've done that. That's your decision. I'm not involved in that decision. That's strictly yours.
I'm just going to go to, yeah, I'm just going to our Director of Corporate Services, Sue Fraser. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on both what Councillor Beck, what both Councillor Beck and Councillor McCabe have spoken to in a friendly amendment to what we've just drafted as a resolution. I guess to the point of what Wayne had said as well is that if we say we're encouraging them to implement a program, we're not speaking to what the program is. We're just telling them to move on and implement a program. So I don't think we're boxing anyone in on that, but we're calling for action rather than just more conversation.
I guess that's where I struggle. I think if we're calling for them to implement that, that means that we're endorsing it. And I don't know fully whether I endorse it or do not endorse it. So it might be semantics and it may be a nuance in there. I just don't know whether, I see lots of good stuff in this. And then I have some questions at the same time too. So the devil's in the details between the feds and the province. They're the ones that have to hash it out. I agree with you 100%, Wayne. It's not our money that's on the line
That's
here.
right.
We will potentially, as you mentioned, be the benefits of a program and the pilot. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But I'm careful about endorsement. And I think if we say, go ahead and implement it, that means that we are endorsing something that we really do not, you've provided compelling arguments or compelling information, but there is a whole report that's out there that has all kinds of information in it. And there might be contrary information that we're unaware of that could be saying, well, this is not a very good idea because of these reasons. You know what I mean? So I'm just a little careful of saying that we are fully behind this. I'm comfortable in supporting, and I know you want to cut the mustard, Wayne, and cut the chains, whatever analogy we want to use. And that's why I say I want this to continue, and I think it's up to the feds and the province to have those heartfelt, difficult, convincing, challenging conversations that have to take place in order to move this forward. This really is not our domain, but I support people getting together to see, because I see merit in a 5-7 year trial. But I'm not sure whether that is the right thing to do or not. But I want people to figure that out, have the good discussions, and come up with the decision. And that's what I would be willing to support.
Councilor Tarrant.
Thank you. Again, as I sit here and I go through and contemplate the presentation, I too am struggling with some of my questions. I think I have more questions than answers, and as a result of that, it was very hard for me to make a decision based around supporting something that it's always easy to identify the clear benefits, and they were listed very easily, and we can all check that off and say, yes, yes, yes. I think it is somewhat of the unknown things that are occurring. I talked about how does this impact low-income families, how does this impact EI, I don't have the answers to that. And to endorse something that may come back as a result and have a negative impact on somebody or a family, not having a full picture would be very hard for me to endorse. And so for the reasons of not really fully having a good understanding, and maybe we won't know some of those answers until we get into the process. That in itself is a slippery slope, because we're entering into something not necessarily knowing what that data is going to show or the impact that might have. And it may come back on all parties that this was not a viable thing. I'm not suggesting it's not. I'm just saying until, as you say, we go through and invoke this and start to do a 5 to 7 year plan around it. There may be some very great things that come from it. There also may be some negatively impacting things that come. And I think to Councillor Duran's point, I had the same thing. So if I'm 18 years old and I'm going to get a basic income guarantee of, we'll say $17,000, there's absolutely no way I'm going to go try to find a job. Why would I do that? I'm guaranteeing $17,000. So it could have a negative impact on our small businesses, both on the island and Charlottetown. So again, I think, it's going to be a common theme here now is, the endorsement thing. I don't think I can stand behind an endorsement of saying, let's do this forward. I'm definitely supportive of the continued conversations that should occur with the all levels of government. Thank you.
Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. This, and I'd like to thank you folks for this. It's very informative. But I think the moral of the story is Wayne and Marie come in just to sort of explain. And I don't know if we have to vote on this today or do we have to vote on this resolution. But at the same time, we can go on and on for another 3 hours because there's a lot of councillors have a lot of different questions on things that we're not sure of. So that's my opinion, is that if we do not have to vote on this today, we can always leave that for another day, because that's just my opinion.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I think.
Go ahead, Wayne.
If you look at the resolution, the one that's, I think, in the packet, this is the one that's at Atlantic, and I think this is the one for discussion, I'm not sure, but just listen to these points. Calling on these orders of government.
Wayne, just 1 second. This proposed resolution for the Atlantic Mayor's Congress Guaranteed Livable Basic Income was sent by Marie to Tracy
Yeah.
McLean, and Tracy emailed it to councillors. And that's what I have in my package. But I changed it to,
Okay.
what I changed was just the therefore to reflect the city of Charlottetown. Because this resolution will be coming forth at the Atlantic Mayor's Congress next weekend in Amherst. So why I wanted something here tonight, because there was a proposed resolution. The only part I changed was the therefore, where it talks about the city of Charlottetown. That's all I changed, nothing else. So
I guess, Mr. Mayor, my point is, I worry we may have confused things a little bit, Marie and I, because what the resolution states is calling on these orders of government to implement a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs. That doesn't say to implement this demonstration project here in Prince Edward Island. It basically says basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs. This proposal would be a guideline for the Premier and the Prime Minister in terms of their discussions, if I could put it that way. And they of course, they're in charge. They can they can implement parts. They can, you know what happens.
Councillor McCabe.
No, and I think we were just having a sidebar to say, I think we know here in the province, guaranteed basic income is a priority for all the parties from what I've listened to in the legislature or the assembly or wherever they're at, talking about this being important. And it really doesn't impact us as a city. And as far as the province, hopefully they're able to push this through, get the discussions going, and to see this come to life here in Prince Edward Island as a pilot for 7 years. But again, it's the province that needs to step up and take action here.
Councillor Yankov.
Thank you, Your Worship. So why couldn't our resolution just state that Charlottetown Council supports the proposed resolution that's heading off to the Atlantic Mayor's Congress? And because the wording in that is very clear what Wayne and Marie are hoping to do. And for me, I'm very, very passionate about a basic guaranteed income. And I'm a firm believer that we can have all the wonders of what might be, but we have zero data. So what's written here for the proposed resolution for the Atlantic Mayor's Congress, if council could just say that we support that to move forward, I mean, then is that not making it a sensible path forward?
Councillor Beck.
But if I read that motion, it's different. Wayne and Marie are asking us to endorse a pilot in Prince Edward Island, correct?
No, Norman, we're explaining the pilot, the demonstration project on Prince Edward Island. I wasn't aware of the exact words of the resolution, but when I read the resolution, I think that's easier for you folks to support that resolution than the demonstration project that we're proposing here. The demonstration project would be a step for the province and the feds to take based on the support for a basic income guarantee.
Sorry, what was that last part? There was a static in the
I think
background.
it'd be, I think that resolution is easier for you to support because it's not so specific, I guess, if I could put it that way. Because I think that resolution for the Atlantic Council of Mayors is pretty generic.
Yeah.
It doesn't deny the opportunity for a demonstration project here along these lines. In fact, it probably puts a little more pressure to do it, but the demonstration project is something that could be used as a guideline in the discussions between the Premier and the Prime Minister in terms of those two levels of government to implement something. But that resolution is not specific to what we're saying. It's quite general. I can't see why Council couldn't support that more general resolution.
I think a point that's really important is that right from the beginning, with the politicians and the advocates and eight economists from across the country, when we put our stamp on that, we said it's not the proposal, it is a proposal. And the goal of it is to get the two governments together and come up with their proposal. And it may not be like this at all. It may be hope may be much better. But it's not the proposal. It's a proposal. And when they're finished talking, it may look quite different. Matter of fact, I think it will.
Okay. So do we have a consensus to agree with the deputy to, could you just reiterate what you said?
Certainly, Your Worship. Just in terms of what was in there for the Atlantic mayors,
Yeah.
that the city of Charlottetown would support the proposed resolution of the Atlantic Mayors Congress based on the guaranteed livable income, basic income. So we are endorsing, agreeing to the proposed resolution that will be heading off to the Atlantic
Yeah.
Mayors Congress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to move that?
I will move that,
Okay,
yes.
I need a second. Okay. So can I just quickly write that up? Do you have that there, CAO? Just the last part would go, leave the resolution that was in the package. And we do have a form over there that we can write the resolution to say that the city of Charlottetown, you can just reiterate. You have it there?
I have it here, it just needs to be edited.
Okay. Okay. Is that all right? I just move or seconder. So any discussion? Councilor Matard.
I just want to be clear again, the bottom line, it says, therefore be resolved that the Atlantic Mayors Congress write a letter to the Prime Minister, Atlantic members of Parliament, and premiers of both New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, Labrador, Nova Scotia. Calling on these orders of government to implement a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs.
Right.
So to me, when I read that, is that just saying we're endorsing a letter that will be written to these levels of government? Is that
Mr.
essentially
Easter,
what that's saying?
Marie. You have to turn on your button.
It sounds like just endorsing a
That
letter.
didn't even pass
be
yet.
written.
No, well,
Unless I'm reading the wrong
yeah,
one
I think basically your discussion, whether or not you agree with this proposed resolution that's to Atlantic Mayor's Congress, I think what you said is absolutely right. You're agreeing with, in writing a letter, which you outlined, calling on those governments to go with a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness, ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs. So it would be in support of that. As I interpret it, but I don't always interpret things 100% right either.
Councillor Beck.
Well, how I interpret that is that we're endorsing a guaranteed, we're asking, according to this one here, which I think is different from what I understood we were talking about earlier. And this here says that we're asking Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia to come together to implement a guaranteed livable basic income. Not to do a test demonstration or a pilot or anything like that. That seems to me, we want everyone here, we're asking us to support everyone to go ahead and implement the basic guaranteed basic livable income. And I thought, and maybe I wasn't following things right here, but I thought we were talking about support for getting them together to do Prince Edward Island for a 5 to 7 year study to get data to see if this thing can work. I see these as two different things. I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing something.
Okay,
here.
so if you look at the whereas number 2, you got the resolution there, right? It says research and pilots.
I don't have that resolution, it's just,
The one that.
Oh,
was
this one here,
That was
yeah,
emailed to you?
yeah, okay.
It's the second sentence. Research in pilots shows that when people have sufficient and secure income, their mental and physical health improves, et cetera. So that is in the resolution. It is research and pilot. Am I correct to say that, Mr. Easter?
Yes, you are. I think in response, Norman's right, Councillor Beck is right, that there is two different concepts here. I see the resolution that's going to the Mayor's Council as more general support for a guaranteed basic income.
And broader.
Generally, and broader.
Yeah.
I see the proposal that Marie and I talked about as the next step in terms of implementing something somewhere that could do the evaluation.
Right.
To see how it works.
Right.
So this one, I mean, I know we've been getting support across the country from various organizations, et cetera, to support the idea of a demonstration project in Prince Edward Island. The resolution you're dealing with for the council is much more general, much more broader.
Right.
This would be another step to make that first major step.
This would be, what would happen in PEI is an intermediary step towards that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but going back to the amendment that we have on the table is to amend that resolution that you crafted there, Your Worship, and we're going to go with just clearly supporting this, which are two different things.
No, it was decided to take what I amended with, therefore be resolved that the City of Charlottetown call on the provincial and federal governments to implement. This resolution will stay the same, and there will be a separate resolution with this attached to state that the City of Charlottetown supports the resolution going to the Atlantic Mayor's Congress on guaranteed livable basic income. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. My understanding is that this is the only resolution based on this presentation, the one that was provided in our package, and that we're just endorsing it to move on to the Atlantic Mayors. So I don't see a second resolution, like whatever was drafted. We've kind of moved away from that, and we just have the one, and it's this one.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor McCabe. We have to call the question. Question call. Okay. Again, it's only to send this over. CAO, Eleanor, can you just read not the resolution for the Atlantic Mayor's Congress, but the resolution with the attachment of Deputy Mayor Yankoff and Councillor McCabe? Do you have that?
Thank you, Your Worship. So if I caught it all correctly, what I have here is that the City of Charlottetown support the resolution proposed by the Atlantic Mayor's Congress to advocate for a guaranteed livable basic income.
Correct? Correct, Councillor McCabe, is that it? Yep. Okay, that's the resolution on the floor. Okay, question called? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I have Councillor Tweel, Councillor McCabe, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, and Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Duran?
I can't support it. There's just too much confusion there for me. So good luck, but thank you.
Councillor McKinnon?
It's a nay for me as well. I'm a little confused in the whole situation. So, no.
So we have against Councillors Beck, McAleer, Matart, Councillors Duran, and McKinnon. Do you have that down, CAO? Hold on. Fine, you get the, yeah, okay. Okay, resolution was defeated. Okay, I don't know where we'll go with it, Mr. Easter and Marie, but thank you for your presentation, and we'll move on.
Thank you, folks. So I hope we didn't confuse you too much. I think we did, because dealing two different things. Anyway, thank you all. Take care. Have a good summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be glad to come back anytime.
Oh, I know, we will. Okay, we're going to the Protective and Emergency Services Bylaw, reading and resolution. Okay, Councillor Ramsey, do you want to introduce it?
Your Worship, like, we got to stay within time frames here. Like you said, 15, 20 minutes for an hour into this, and I know, like, the waters are all muddier from a lot of us because of everything that was thrown to us and all that. Like, some days, you know, we're going to have to, if this is something we're going to meet in the future, maybe this is a separate meeting or something, because so everybody can understand and everybody can ask questions, but to basically say 15 minutes and then we're into an hour, this is why we're here till after 8 o'clock at night.
Councillor Ramsey, if you looked at the package, Tracy provided 3 documents on this issue. So as a council, we're looking at reading this stuff to make sure that we have a preparation. Now, the questions that came from the presentation prolonged it, not the presentation. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to remind us all that when we come to a meeting, we should assume that we could be here for 3 hours, because that is the role of an elected official. That's what's in the documentation around meetings. So, you know, we're not there yet. It's only 5:45, and I certainly hear and understand what Councillor Ramsey is saying, and I respect what he's saying. But we also need to remember, too, that it is a 3-hour commitment to a meeting, any given meeting that we come to, unless I'm wrong.
Nope, that's right, and we have to go over time, we have to take a vote on to go an extra 15 minutes, Tracy, or, no, she's pretty tight on it. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, and just kind of to I have no problem with time. I'm not worried about that. What I think happened here is I think we got derailed because we had we received all that information, the 3 documents that Tracy sent. We all had time to read that. But the new motion that came in at the last minute, that's where I think it kind of threw a bit of a wrench in it for me, was where we were presented with the resolution. If we had had time to see that resolution beforehand and had time to absorb what was actually in it, and time to process that, I think it would have been more, we probably could have avoided some of the discussion that we spent time, because I was seeing very different things. We started off with, they came in with a request for us to support the conversation, to get the feds and the province together. That's what I understood. Then it kind of morphed into something else partway through. And part of it stemmed when we got that resolution at the last minute. So this handing stuff together at the last minute does not, cannot work.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what derailed our discussion here. And I want to be perfectly clear again. I have tremendous respect for the work that Wayne Easter and Marie Burge are doing and the advocacy that they are doing for students, or for our citizens. So I don't want that lost anywhere. I had to support, you were asking me to support what we were going through. It was pinballing kind of all over the place. And we were being asked to support something that I was becoming increasingly confused about, for lack of a better word. So I think if we're going to have these sorts of resolutions to come in based on a presentation that we are going to be receiving, which is fine and good, we have to have a little bit of time to absorb what those resolutions are and what those potentially mean. Because for me, it came down to a question of not opposing the idea or opposing the work that these people are doing, which is applaudable, commendable, and honorable. But I think we have to be focused in our decision-making and know clearly what we're being asked to support or reject.
That's why when we went back to the original resolution, again, it appeared to me that some of you didn't have the resolution because some of you did say to me, what resolution? And I made reference to Tracy that she did email them out. So the resolution did go out in the package.
The resolution.
Yeah, it was sent separately. So the resolution that came from Wayne and Marie that was going to the Atlantic mayors, we went back to that original resolution
That's in there.
in the package.
Yeah.
Yes, but you made reference to that I don't have this resolution.
But you changed the
I
resolution.
changed it to make it applicable to the city of Charlottetown.
Right.
That's all I did.
Right. So
And-
we should have, this does not mention the city of Charlottetown.
No, it
It's
does
Atlantic
not.
Mayors.
It says only that the city of Charlottetown, as I said, call on the provincial and federal government to implement a guaranteed livable basic income. That's all.
The Atlantic Mayors Congress to write a letter,
No, that was taken out
right, at the last minute that we didn't know about.
because we wanted to make a motion, a resolution that was from the city of Charlottetown. That didn't carry, so we went back to the original resolution that came from the Atlantic Mayors Congress, or was going to the Atlantic Mayors Congress, and it was defeated, 5-4.
But our original motion that came up, that when you changed this letter here with the last part to make a Charlottetown-centric motion, correct?
Right, but the
But that didn't
resolution,
get anywhere.
but the resolution that we voted on was the resolution that was given to us by Wayne Easter and Marie Burge. All that the deputy and the Councillor McCabe did is that they just said, we're adding the city of Charlottetown with the attached resolution. I made it clear it was an attached resolution, the resolution that we received from them. Councillor Tard.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Beck's point, I think we just answered that here a second ago. In the last 1 minute, we were all just really, yet again, confused as to what transpired. And again, I want to be very clear, a basic income guarantee sounds like a wonderful program.
Right.
And would add a lot of value to people's lives. I'm not disputing that in any way, shape, or form. My decisions were based on the confusion of what we were actually doing here based on that, and not really fully understanding the impacts. And I was worried that a lot of it was based on, well, we'll find that out as we move through the pilot and get more data. So I think this just lends to, you know, we're coming in here, we're getting a presentation, and we're asking lots of questions and asked to vote on something, you know, where we could take that time away. And I think Councillor Ramsey alluded to that originally. I thought we were gonna, your suggestion was that let's take a break from this and step back, and we'll come back to it at another time so that we could further follow up on questions or further clarify understandings. And unfortunately, we didn't get there today. And as a result, the motion wasn't carried. And again, you know, it's nothing to do with the actual program itself. I think it was the process that kind of failed us here, or failed me. So, thank you.
Councillor Ramsey.
Yeah, and just getting back to that, like I can spend 18 hours here a day. I'm your deputy mayor, as you know, things along that line. And that's not what I meant. It's just that it seems like we're going all over the pond here because of things that we didn't understand. And as Councillor Beck said too, like some of the resolutions we're all in favor of a basic income. I mean, I just want that out there too, because whatever helps people out there in this world, we're all in favor of that. But what I'm just trying to say is that we've been going all around the circle, and I think Mr. Easter was even sort of confused with some of the questions sometimes that we're firing at him. So, but if you're sort of time allotting certain procedures, let's try and stay with them, is all I'm saying. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I can stay here till 10 o'clock at night, and we did a few times. But anyway, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, just to close it then. So if Mayor Philip Brown goes to Amherst next weekend for the Atlantic Mayors Congress, and this comes up because it will come to the floor, I'm voting against it. Is that what I'm being told here? On this resolution that came in your package, am I being told by this council to vote against it or abstain? That's all I'm asking. Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Quite honestly, Your Worship, at this time, we have so many things here that are on the floor. I think it's unfair to even give you an answer that I could say, yeah, do that, Mayor Brown. I don't think I can do that. Which is, again, it goes back to my point. Like, this was presented to us as an information that's going. There was never a resolution that came to us and said, here's what we are voting on tonight. There was a resolution that came at the last minute that was circulated over here. I don't even know if it got to the other side of the room.
This is the resolution that was in the package.
No, I know, but there was a resolution that came out earlier that was circulated around here. That was signed that never actually got to the table.
Yeah, but it reflected, all it did was the two whereases, the last therefore, brought it back to, everything else was the same.
No, it got amended. It got amended by Deputy Mayor.
No.
And it did.
Well, no, the Deputy Mayor said she would say, let's support this resolution, that the City of Charlottetown supports the resolution for going to the Atlantic Mayors. And we said no to that. Am I correct? Yes, CAO Eleanor.
Mr. Mayor.
Just 1 second, CAO Eleanor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I just want to clarify this from a governance point of view. According to the procedural bylaw 20.1, this item should have come through committee, which I think could have been a bit more meat around the topic, and there would have been a recommendation from staff in terms of what the resolution could be. So this was a bit confused, so I apologize that I didn't pick up on this in the agenda sooner. What I would suggest, because of the manner in which it came to council, that perhaps we could take this item to the strategic priorities communications or intergovernmental and communications committee to review what was here today and perhaps come up with a different recommended resolution to support this. Hearing what has been said tonight, and what has been said tonight was that We're after a continued conversation, but not comfortable with the wording of implementation. And we also heard from Mr. Easter that he's actually looking for something more of support of a demonstration project, which requires a little bit more background before council can make any sort of resolution on it. So I'm proposing that go back to committee. Second to that, in terms of the Atlantic Mayors Congress. This is a Mayors Congress, a body of mayors coming together. So the city of Charlottetown doesn't necessarily have to endorse anything that the Mayors Congress is voting on. So a member of this Congress would be our mayor, but the body that's voting for this resolution to pass it's them. So it's not the city of Charlottetown. So you don't necessarily need permission from this council for this mayor to vote as part of that resolution, as part of that body. So I want to clarify that for you. Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just, with all due respect, we moved to protective emergency services here, but we're back to 4B ongoing. So I'm just wondering if we can move on here.
Yep, we are. Councillor Ramsey, he did open C. Do you want to? Well, bring them in. Okay. So we're bringing. Well. Are you boxed in there? Yeah. Janice, could you just call Councillor Tweel back in, because this is a vote on the first reading to amend COVID-19. No, there are two parts to it, okay? First reading to amend COVID-19 temporary patio program bylaws. So Councillor Ramsey asked to have that done first, correct, Councillor Ramsey? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Just go again, Mike. Okay, there you are.
Oh, yes, that's correct, Your Worship. We can have that done, and one of the reasons why, because when our fellow member has to leave, well, he can come back in after the other discussions to look at his Parks and Recreation resolutions and the other things. So the first thing is the first reading to amend the COVID-19 temporary patio program bylaws. So our CAO, would you like to take that, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. City of Charlottetown COVID-19 temporary patio program bylaw, amending bylaw number 2020 CTP-01B. The purpose of this amending bylaw is to change the effective date of the temporary outdoor patios within the City of Charlottetown from October 31st, 2021 to October 31st, 2023, and to increase the fees to align with the street vendors bylaw. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown COVID-19 temporary patio program bylaw 2020 CTP-01B be read a first time. Moved by Councillor Kevin Ramsey and seconded by Councillor Norman Beck.
Okay, shall it carry? Is it first reading or second reading? That's first. Okay. Another part to it? Can you read that?
Be it resolved that that the bylaw now be approved as a city bylaw and that it be entitled City of Charlottetown COVID-19 Temporary Patio Program Bylaw 2020-CTP-01B, and that it be read a second time at the next public meeting of council. Moved by Councillor Kevin Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Norman Beck.
So it's first reading. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Obviously, I support the first reading of this COVID patio bylaw. And I know that, I just noticed that in it, though, it says that we're increasing the fees to align with the street vendors bylaw, but I don't think our street vendors bylaw is up to date right now, because I think that's something we have to do every 3 years as well. So I believe we have some outstanding encroachment orders that need to go with that, and I'm just wondering if, just to make sure that when we support this first reading, that we're not conflicting with a street vendors bylaw that needs some updating.
Okay. Any more? Chief, do you want to, Councillor Ramsey, are you asking Chief to?
Why these things don't work. Yes, I am, Your Worship. Thank you.
Your Worship, I'm not aware of any conflict between the two, and we understand that there's some work to do on the street vendor bylaw, and our staff are working on that.
Councillor McCabe?
So just for clarification, right now, the parking spot is $600, and if that changes, these people will be grandfathered in for this year as the $600 cost. Is that correct?
Councillor Ramsey?
I believe that's true, Chief, isn't it? Because they were going with 300, and then it's going to be in line that everybody pays the same as 600. Am I correct with that?
That's correct.
Okay. Councillor McCabe?
So presently, it's 300, but we're anticipating that price will go up to 600 with the updated bylaw. Is that what I'm understanding?
Go ahead, Chief.
Our recommendation is to increase and align the fees with the street vendors bylaw. We've asked for this extension to complete some review and some work to bring before council on a potential merger between the COVID-19 temporary patio bylaw and our existing street vendor bylaw.
Yeah.
That would accommodate all the businesses that have come under the pilot program.
Yeah. Just for clarification, Chief, COVID-19 patio license was 300, and patios that were already out there were paying 600, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so this will align it, yeah. Okay. Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, thank you. So this temporary COVID bylaw is only going to be, it's only extended for until October before we align the two together. So does this mean that we're taking those folks that already have their patios set up, and we're going to tell them that they have to pay $600 now to align with the street vendors? Or are we talking, I'm just like, are they aware that they're going to be getting a bill for double the price without knowing? I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. I think that's what Councilor McCabe was referring to as well. Thank you. Yep, thanks.
I think they are aware, Chief, are they not? And this is just to bring everybody on the same page, that some are not paying 300, some are not paying 400. They're all paying $600, but I'm pretty sure, but maybe the chief can clarify that.
Yes, Your Worship, our bylaw officer has been in active communication with all of these, and they are aware of the increase.
Okay. Councillor Tart, did you have your, just press your button there, please? Thank you, go.
Just for clarification, so we have a street vendor bylaw currently which encompasses a number of patios post or pre-COVID. Sound like we're trying to align the ones that fell under the COVID-19 temporary. So I see in addition, obviously, to the cost from 360, but why not just merge them into the street vendor bylaw? Is there something in between that was a temporary setting that they would have to meet up for? Or why extend this another year? Why don't we just put them under the street vendor bylaw and go to the 600, Your Chair? I'm just.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yes, Your Worship. So there are certain stipulations under the street vendor bylaw that were waived under the temporary COVID-19 bylaw. One being the need for a provincial liquor license, and the other to serve food. There were special requirements that were made under the a temporary program that enabled businesses to stay viable that did not meet that criteria. However, it's been, I think, a well-adapted program by local businesses, and there's a desire to keep going with their programs. So what we would like to do is to bring some language back to committee and council for that potential merger to allow that to continue.
Thank you, Chair, to the chief. That aligns with, obviously there's some different stipulations that clearly want to align those up. So I'm happy to hear you saying you're going to bring back likely some amendments to the street law, to the street vendor bylaw that will allow for this to be all incorporated into one. Perfect.
Correct, Chief?
Thank you.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Deputy
My final comment, just to remind everyone here, because we do have some silo stuff going on, there's also another component to this, which are the private property patios that were allowed during COVID, so that folks could take away some of their own personal parking and create patios. Those go through planning. So just if there's anyone out there listening, that is a whole other thing altogether. So I just want to make it clear, because, unfortunately, it's a tidy bit confusing when we have, different areas doing different things. So I just wanted to put that clarity out there, that those folks that have patios on their own parking spots apply to planning and heritage for those permits. And I believe that was already approved through council last month for an extension for another,
This year.
for this year.
Yep. Councilor Ramsey.
I'd like to thank you for that there, Deputy Mayor, because that's the thing that we discussed, and we went through some emails and all that, because it's a perfect ideal. If you're on your own property, it does not go through police, it goes through planning.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you for that.
Okay. Okay. Questions called? Okay. No, does it carry? Will it carry? Pass. Councilor Duran?
Pass.
Councilor McKinnon?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Deputy CAO Eleanor, you want this back, or do you not? Now, we're going into the second item, where Councilor Twill, and I think the chief, police chief, and our fire chief deputy are going to stay too? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to read the resolution?
Thank you, Your Worship. Protective Emergency Services Resolution number 1. Moved by Councillor Kevin Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Norman Beck. Be it resolved that the Public Works Manager be authorized to demolish and/or renovate the building located at 282-284 University Avenue, PID number 359802, deemed necessary by the City of Charlottetown's bylaws, and to remove any other materials, debris, to clean up and properly dispose of the same, do any infilling required to return the property to its original safe state at the owner's expense on the property located at 282-284 University Avenue, PID 359802, in accordance with the terms of the City of Charlottetown Dangerous, Hazardous, and Unsightly Bylaw, and further that an inventory be established with respect to dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly properties within the City of Charlottetown.
Okay. Councilor McCabe.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I did a lot of work around this resolution and tried to go back to our unsightly and dangerous bylaw. The resolution states the Public Works Manager be authorized to demolish and/or renovate the building deemed necessary by the city building inspector and fire inspector. I don't see anywhere in the report where this is clear. What I seen when I read this report, there was 3 different departments report.
Councilor McCabe, just on a point, the revised resolution was emailed to you.
Oh.
So what was read to you?
Okay. Well,
She's
if
going
you
to bring
would.
it. She's going to bring it up on the screen.
Okay, good. That'll probably change my 20-minute spiel instead of lay
Yeah,
down to
just
10.
there it is. There it is, and you have 5 minutes.
By the city's bylaws. Okay. Either way, I can still break it down within the city's bylaws. Okay, that just makes it a little bit different. But, you know, when we're looking at whether or not we are going to pass a resolution to further respect, I'm guessing it's to demolish still, is it? And/or renovate the building. I feel that, again, it's this kind of silos work that we just talk about patios. We talk about these things. We have Fire who went in November or in October. They indicated some issues. The property owners cleaned up the issues. November 13th, 2019, the property remains secure. Police came in and under our unsightly section in the bylaw, under 3.12, any property thereof where there's litter and dangerous, well, this property did not meet the criteria. Under the dangerous and hazardous section of our bylaw, 3.5, mostly pertaining to building structure, so that the load of the floor, the roof, etc., there could be no comment provided in the report from police because a full assessment of the structural integrity was not able to be obtained. And then it goes to the third department. The building inspector under planning was not granted access to enter the property to assess the integrity of the structure. So when I look at our dangerous, hazard, and sightly premises bylaw in section 5.2, it states that buildings shall be maintained in structurally sound condition. But in this report, planning indicated that the inspector wasn't even allowed to visit to the property to determine if this building actually meets our bylaw or not. And we look at section 8.2 of the bylaw, it states that the inspector shall notify the city solicitor to take legal action to force the owner to take all necessary actions to comply with the bylaw. So this is going back 2019 when this all started. And, you know, I've been on council since then and I have no recollection of any city solicitor taking any legal action or brought to council to look at whether or not the property owners at this time complied. If the city wants to assess the building for dangerous and hazardous buildings, would this not be a step we could have taken? Did we take it? If we didn't, why not? When we look at section 8.3, it says when an owner is served and does not comply with the requirements of such notice, the inspector shall immediately notify council, who may authorize an inspector by resolution through its own forces or those of a contractor to immediately enter on the property and carry out the work described. So would this not include an assessment of the structure? Just questions. I appreciate the concerns that have been raised by the residents. I believe that we have to ensure that we are following our own bylaws and policies that we have in place. And I also appreciate that section 5.9 gives council the power to order a building to be repaired or demolished. But from what I read, the fire concern was issued and addressed in a timely manner, and they state that it remains safe. Police deemed that it did not meet criteria for the unsightly. The missing piece is this structure hazardous. Unfortunately, the property owners did not allow assessment while this was going on, but I see that under our 8.3, can we not order an assessment to determine whether or not this building is actually sound or is it hazardous? How do we know if it's in compliance? If our building inspector wasn't permitted in, do we need to tighten this bylaw? Do we give the property owner a condition and explain that we have to get in and see this, or the assumption will be made that the property is hazardous? And we need to answer this dangerous piece before I'm going to be comfortable voting to demolish any building in the city. And I'm certainly not comfortable renovating a private building. So there's too many questions for me at this time.
Okay, Councilor Ramsey?
That's a lot of questions. And we all know the background of 282, 284 University Avenue. Fire was in 2017. By our bylaws, as you stated, it's after 18 months, it either has to be demolished or renovated or something along that line. But at the same time, it's going on close to 6 years. We've been getting requests from residents. We all received the email from the neighbor next door. And I'm not here to lobby to have it tore down or to have it standing, but we have to look at this as a starting point. And we can't be going around the city, and our bylaw officer is very busy at the same time, and it falls underneath the act. And I don't know why we want to keep pushing and pushing and delaying because of all the different stories that are out there. But I double-checked yesterday when I come back, and I double-checked today with the fire chief and the police chief. Like, the resolution seems to be everything in order right here, and why we want to sort of delay this, because the owners of this property had close to 6 years to do something with this property. And we do now, and it's on the main article of going into Charlottetown. So I don't know why we want to keep delaying process when it's, the facts are all in front of us. Thank you.
No, just one second. Councilor Matart, you will come back.
Do I speak after?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess in reviewing the file myself and not having this backstory for the 6 years, I do struggle with, whether, everything, all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed and things were checked off in this particular case. And I think Councillor McCabe has made a good point in the structural component of this. Regardless of whether it was the property owner and or the city who could have implemented that. I think there is a big unknown here. And I think we may owe it to the property owner to, an extended period of time to deal with that particular structural component. I think the others were checked off and seem to be within compliance or not in compliance and or have been dealt with. Also, I'd like to mention, I wonder, are there other properties within Charlottetown that are very similar in nature or in worse condition that we're not addressing in quite this manner, and if so, we should be, and looking to do some type of inventory of what that looks like. I'm hesitant to, like I say, to tear down a property or award a tearing down of a property or, without having everything checked off completely. And I just don't know if I see that here. Do we need that done? Yes, we need that done. We need that done on all properties. I think if we're going to set this as a catalyst to this needs to be what we need to be looking at. Many derelict properties and unsightly properties in the greater Charlottetown area, or not in Charlottetown as a whole, sorry. So I think that, my position here would be, to look to extend upon, not a lengthy extension, but an extension to deal with this matter. And because I think there's one unanswered question in this, and that's the structure of this property. If the property owner is not willing to allow city inspectors to do that, then so be it. You're not allowing us to do our job. We're going to have to the right that it's not safe based on that, or whatever the case may be. If they're willing to work with the city, the fire inspector, the chief, whoever needs to be worked with, great. I think we put that out as a next step for myself. Thank you.
I'm going to call in Councilor Drawn. He's called in. Councilor Drawn, you get 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Brown. I'll
Yep.
respect my 5 minutes here. But,
Thank you.
I have some questions. The first resolution, it said by the city building inspector and the Charlottetown fire inspector. Now, we got an updated resolution today, and they were not on the resolution. So, why did we get one on the weekend, and then all of a sudden today it changes? Do they not have concerns anymore, or what? So I have about 7 points here. I also want to ask, the family attended the last committee meeting to explain their plan of action for the building, but they were denied to speak by the acting CAO at that time. They wanted to explain to the committee what their plan of action. They have some struggles there right now. Of course, we all know the pandemic and the family dynamics. They wanted to sit down with the committee and explain their point of view and to see what can be done. I mean, they're willing to work with the city here, and I can't understand why we're not. Like, why wasn't a letter sent to the family requesting an update to see what's going on there? That wasn't done. And this should go back to the Protective Emergency Services Committee, and they'll all sit down and explain what to do. This family has complied with everything that the fire and the police wanted them to do. Now, there was a building inspector component there, and I'm sure now if you allow them to come back to the committee and explain the seriousness of it, maybe that's something they'll have to do. And I commend Councillor McCabe and Councillor Matart for saying those points of views. And if you're not willing to get a inspector in, then there's a step we'll have to do. Yeah. Now, at one point, they were talking there a year or two ago when our former CAO was there that the street is not allowing emergency services trucks to get up that street. So the city was looking at an option to see if they could buy it at that time, but it was just an option, and I never heard anything back from where we were going with that. So, that'd be something that, the city or the committee could sit down there and discuss that. And the last point I have is, I believe that a lawyer sent a letter today, maybe to the city or to the mayor, but we didn't get to see it. So, you're asking us to vote on a resolution that we looked at all weekend, then get an updated resolution that the city building inspector and the city fire chief have removed their names from it. And, there's a legal aspect from the family. Is it asking to sit down or delay, or I don't know what the letter is. I just heard that there was a letter sent. So there's so many questions on this. We have so many buildings that are in similar disrepair around the city, and I looked at the Councillor Beck there said that we should have I don't know what an inventory, I guess he'd explain. I don't know why we're jumping on this one right now when the family's willing to come in and sit down and discuss things, issues. If they're blatantly not willing to discuss what's going to happen, then I can understand the need for that. But if the police and the fire are okay with it now, let's invite them back. Let's do our due diligence, and let's get these things organized. Again, that's all I can say. I just think this is going above and beyond what we should be doing with one family, when we should have an inventory set up and the process for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Duran, the letter from the lawyer came to all of us Monday, the 29th at 5:01 p.m. The title was Store, and it came from Island Activewear at eastlink.ca. So you did receive it. Well,
I didn't.
I'm looking at the receipt. It went into the junk mail. So and it didn't come from us. It came from from Island Activewear. So it didn't come from. That's how I got the letter. As for the meeting that took place, the Standing Committee meeting for Protective and Emergency Services, there was a request, and Councillor Ramsey can verify that, there was a request to go into a closed session with the family, and it did not meet the criteria under Section 119 under those 6 or 7 areas. So that's why the meeting with the family didn't happen, because we couldn't go into a closed session. Councillor Ramsey, did you want to just follow up on that? Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, and I thank you for that, and I thank everybody for their comments and that. Like, we met last week or 2 weeks ago on this property, and we all agreed that there be an inventory taken, but this has been going on for years, and the only reason we're acting on it because there are the emails come out, there are certain complaints and all that. So they asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago to put it on the agenda. That's why I put it on the agenda. We agreed to do up the resolution. It went 3-0. I talked to a family member last night, Councillor Durong, for over an hour, and I said to this family member, he explained everything about the COVID and hurricane and price of everything. And he even mentioned how the city was looking to buy it, which I never knew anything about that either. But at the same time, I said to this family member, can you give me a time frame if this thing does not pass tonight, or I can take to council, if it's 10 days, 15 days, or a month, or 2 years down the road, is there going to be something done with this property? And he said, no, I cannot give you a time frame. So we could be sitting here next year or 2 years down the road like going over the same resolution. And he just said that, I cannot give you a time frame, because I told him it would be a better sell if he had a time frame in saying that, yes, we as a family are gonna act on this property in 15 days or 20 days or 2 months. And he said, no, Kevin, I can't give you that time frame. So I'm just bringing the resolution to the floor. It doesn't, I don't tell people how to vote, and I will certainly not encourage them how to vote. It's entirely up to yourself, but I'm just bringing it to the floor, and I know our bylaw officer is very busy, as we all know, because we all call him all the time. And there's other properties that's going to be on, that's going to be earmarked, and when he gets a call, he's going to make a note, and they're going to be an inventory, and in the future, and that's all on the resolution.
Okay.
So I can't do much more than what I was told to do by council and by residents by bringing it to the floor. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe, yeah, this is, I just want to make sure this is
It's my
second time.
second time, yeah. I'm just following up to Councillor Ramsey's comment from a while ago saying we follow process. And that's, I guess, where I'm questioning, did we actually follow process? You know, when we look at section 8.2, the city solicitor shall notify and to us to take action, legal action on the property owners. And I don't know if that's ever happened. So, you know, I'm going to challenge that we followed our own processes, because I really have no recollection of any city solicitor taking property owners to court because they weren't complying with our bylaw. And in that, though, you know, it goes back to, I think, coming back to your committee to look at the bylaw in place and the section 8.3, you know, are we able to take a vote to go into someone's home and to evaluate a structure if there's suspected instability in a house structure? When we're looking at when we get to this point, when we're looking at demolishing a property, do we have any rights within our legislation? And that's an honest question. I don't know the answer to that, but I think we have to go back and look at what can we do before we start coming to council and looking and saying that it was 18 months. I think we need to strengthen our bylaw, and I certainly, don't think we follow process. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to build on what Councillor McCabe, Councillor Matart had said, and I do sit on the Protective Services Committee, and what I supported was a inventory and a further discussion with council, because there was still a lot of unanswered questions that we all still have. I believe the last time a property was even demolished in the city of Charlottetown was 2017. So clearly these things do not come without a lot of conversation and follow through on particular steps. And so I'm not prepared to, I'm totally in support of an inventory and taking that same model that we use with Public Works, which was once we identify an inventory, doing the whole worst first. But I'm not prepared to act on the existing resolution on the particular property on University Avenue this evening until I hear a little bit more clarification. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just on this, I guess everybody, is aware I asked a question on this particular property as a result of a resident complaint that was copied to me, all other councillors, the mayor, CAO, and asked a question in the chamber, and it was because of the message that was in the letter. Which I expressed, I think at that time, is pretty compelling, and I wanted to try to understand more about that. So I asked the question in the chamber, and that led to some debate and some comments. However, then that where it went from there is, I think we all understand, went to the committee, Fire and Protective Services Committee, and it got debated there, and come back to the chamber tonight as an agenda item with a recommendation resolution. I know in understanding this and trying to recognize, and Councillor Yankoff just indicated, I guess the last time she referred to 2017, I talked with our fire chief. I wanted to understand when perhaps an example of this sort of action had taken place. So in 2017, those that are around the table longer than me, or at that time, 2017, there was a property on 421 Queen Street that was dealt with on this kind of matter, unsightly premises, and it ended up the action taken on that was it was demolished, and today sits as a vacant lot. So I had to ask myself, and here we are with a resolution on a property that's, from what I understand, I think I asked the chief generally, is it in the same context or spirit? And I understand that to be the case. I also had a call and returned it from a family member on this, last Wednesday, and again expressing, dynamics around it, not the least of which is family. And anyway, certainly empathize with that. But to me, this is a bigger question. It's about an at-large issue. And as to why there's other properties, not part of this, I think it needs action. I think you have to start, anyway, we have to take one of these and act upon it. And the amendment, or the friendly amendment that's in this is to start an inventory on other properties. So I'm trusting that the staff, at the staff level, the chief, fire and police have I think the due diligence has been done. I'm all for if the owners of this property can come back with a plan action and certainly be that renovation or demolition. I just think it's time's here, so people are going to have to, if this goes to whatever, here's a resolution, people are going to have to vote what they think is best. Thank you.
Councillor Beck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess really at the committee level I was hoping, kind of much like the deputy mayor, I wanted to bring this to the council to have a fulsome discussion amongst all of us, because it's not a 282, 284 University Avenue issue. It's not a Ward 4 issue. It's not a Ward 3 issue. It's a citywide issue. And when I first brought any kind of attention to this, it had nothing to do with this property, to be honest. I was not even thinking of this property. I was thinking of other properties that were around in the town. And the question that I had is, what do we do with these properties? So that prompted me to look at our policy. And when you look at our policy, you can almost apply or cherry pick anything in a policy and say it fits. There are elements within this that do fit in terms of a dangerous building. Dangerous to life, safety, or the health and welfare of the occupants. Deteriorate so to be substantially depreciate the value of the property in the vicinity, or become a detriment to the general appearance of the city. Those things fit in this particular case. There are other elements that I could go in through as well too, but I did want to go back to the building inspector part, because that was something that was new information that came since our protective, and I did not know that we could not go in and do a full assessment on the building. The family member I spoke to said that they are willing to allow that to happen. So I'm not sure where it came that all further communications will be sent to legal counsel on this matter. So there seems to be a bit of confusion in that. But I guess maybe as part of the broader discussion, I think might be a bit of a missing gap here in terms of enlightenment for councillors. And that is, when we look at the report, it looks like there was an ordinance issued on November 13th, 2019, I think it was. What were the intervening steps that happened between that 2019 and now that maybe prompted us or led us to lead to this decision that came forth that's presented here in front of us today? Can maybe Chief Mimi or Chief McConnell, if you could maybe fill in a little bit of that missing
Councillor
information.
Beck, could you just put that through the chair first?
Sorry.
Is that all right, Councillor Ramsey?
Thank you for that, Councillor Beck.
Chief McConnell or Chief Maybe, are you asking both, Councillor Beck? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can certainly walk council through the chronological events of that since the fire in 2017. I first want to say that, the last thing that any of our city services want to do is bring a resolution to council. And I stand behind the work of our bylaw officer and his due diligence and commitment to try to bring this to a resolution before it's come here. So we just do not do this lightly, and we know there's a lot to think about here. I can tell you that the matter first came to our attention through a complaint in August of 2018 when an area resident raised concerns about safety and unsightliness of the property. Our police and fire inspectors met with the family and advised them of the issues with the noted property, and that was the first step, and normally is the first step in that. Then a period of time had passed, and in 2019, we received another complaint about the safety and unsightliness of this property. And on October 2019, a fire and police inspector served a hazard of compliance order to the owners. And in November, an inspection of this property by fire and police revealed that all violations were addressed. So there was compliance. In 2020, staff met with family regarding certain grass and safety issues and a sign that was posted on the property. They were notified at the family at the time that the issues would be addressed, and subsequently were addressed. In 2021, the owner contacted. We were notified that the family had sought legal advice on this property, and in 2022, in February, police contacted the family and advised that the city would be looking to have the property addressed as per section 3.5, 1, subsection 2, subsection 3 of the Dangerous Hazard and Unsightly Bylaw. On March 2022, it was discussed in a closed session of committee where there were further discussions pertaining to the property. The CEO at the time updated committee and advised them that an external appraisal of the property was completed. The property was appraised at $260,000. The CEO had discussions with the owners on behalf of the family and indicated the family would be interested in selling the property in the area of $300,000, and the family had also have stipulations on the future use of the property. The committee discussed the options and agreed to have staff provide a report on the status and the recommendations of the property. If there was a consensus of the committee, that a motion be put forward in an open session. On June 28, 2022, police met with the family and served a warning in regards to the bylaw. On August 2nd, 2022, arrangements were made to enter the building with police and fire inspectors and planning for interior and exterior inspection. On August 3rd, police were informed by the family that legal counsel has advised to deny entry to the building, and that further correspondence will go through their legal counsel. On April 28th, 2023, a letter, I think, which was addressed to mayor and council from the same complainant, addressed the issues and certainly highlighted the fact that the building, which had been boarded up for quite some time, was not in compliance with the current bylaw. And Certainly when we receive complaints that are not in alignment with our bylaw, there's certainly an obligation by police and our other city services to meet the public expectation and work within the framework of the bylaws that we have. The resolution that was put forward in result of that complaint was a recommendation to council for consideration based on our previous experience and our due diligence, and certainly wasn't done without the consideration of all of the due diligence and work that had gone before it. And we certainly recognize that there's a lot of dynamics to play and considerations from the family. And I don't think that there was ever a time where our city services, including our bylaw officer, was ever not willing to try to move the marker to bring this to some sort of resolution that didn't land us here today. That is the, it was brought, Your Worship, by some of the councillors about some of the steps that should have been taken or maybe could have been taken along the way. I think our approach was consistent with other buildings that were faced with similar challenges and property owners. I certainly stand behind the work of our bylaw officer. I think this is a big consideration, and certainly our police services makes this recommendation, but I can also say are willing to do whatever the wish of council is to address these issues. And, we have to be respectful that we have city services and integrative city services to represent. And when we have complainants, we have to respect that we must be responsive to those complaints also.
Councilor Matard.
To the chair, when we have a property as such and it meets it's compliant in all of the areas, is that building able to stand as is for any length of time?
That's a good question. As we know, the property we're dealing with today, it's been over close to 6 years. So, and what we heard from certain people that they fixed up some problems after meeting with the police and fire. Chief, could you answer that question? Like, is it still able to stand abandoned, let's say 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road?
And I guess maybe I'll elaborate on the question a little bit more in the chair is that, if the inspection goes through as it has, and again, things are checked off and things are compliant and windows are boarded up and they're painted the same color as the place and it stands as is and there's no safety concerns to the public or to the surrounding area, can that building stand for its lifetime in that sense? Or is there, or at a point in time, if the opposite of that is there are things that are not compliant and therefore the homeowner or the property owner, is giving a allowable time of maybe 18 months, whatever it is, to address those. And if they do not address those, then certainly we can come in and invoke certain procedures to allow for that to happen, whether that is going to court or, doing any number of things that could do that. So I'm trying to get my head around, if everything was compliant here, would that be fine? And how long does that go for? Okay.
Councilor Ramsey. Councilor Ramsey, you want to go through the chair to?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship Chair. And Councillor, thanks for the question. I'm not sure 100% on the verbiage that's in our bylaw as it sits before us right now in regards to the dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly. But I know in regard to the National Fire Protection Association codes, which we apply, NFPA Code 1, Fire Code 1, a vacant building can't stand for ever and a day. There has to be either used as a building on a seasonal basis, on a permanent basis, or if left vacant, if secured properly in accordance with the code, which would leave a building then unsightly, it could, but there's conflicting sort of requirements there between both the fire code and our dangerous, hazardous, unsightly bylaw and how things work together. So no, one wouldn't be able to stand indefinitely.
Well, and the reason I ask that is there's a number of properties throughout Charlottetown that are likely more unsightly and standing as is for many, 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 many years, which could also not, be unsightly, but also present, from a fire and safety perspective, hazard or any type of occupation or something of that nature. Again, I think I just want to wrap up my comments on this in the sense of, I think if we can give an opportunity here to address, I don't know if we know this property is structurally sound, if I'm understanding that correctly. I think we go back to the property owners, we define a time frame to say, this is what needs to occur, and when, and how, and if it's not addressed, then certainly action will be taken forward. Thank you.
Councillor Duran, I can't see you or Councillor McKinnon. Councillor McKinnon, did you want to have your first chance to speak? Because we're allowing just two speak twice in the resolution. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, everything is cutting in and out. I'm not getting a whole lot. Chief of Police, I heard Tim, and then that was it.
Do you have any comments?
This is on the property on the resolution?
On the resolution? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I do support this resolution. The only thing I'm confused about, I thought in the resolution that we're going to get the family in compliance with the bylaw, and I thought there was a second part where we're going to do an inventory of other properties within the city of Charlottetown, and everybody will be treated the same. We're not just picking on one particular property here. So I thought we were starting a process to clean up the city. We've had properties that have been vacant for years and years. At what point are we going to start cleaning it up? So that's my only comment.
Okay. So Tracy McLean did send out a revised resolution for tonight's meeting. If you just search Tracy McLean. Councillor Duran? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Councillor McKinnon, go ahead.
No, I just said at this time I'm not able to retrieve that email.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Duran?
Question. Yeah, second time there. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Council has put forward a lot of concerns. Great discussion about getting an inventory in place and going down that route. There's been numerous times we've mentioned there's numerous places that are in worse condition that have been standing much longer than this one, but we're choosing on one complaint to move forward and demolish a building where the family is willing to come in. They're willing to work with council.
Excuse me.
I think this should be. I think Trevor's.
Yeah. Councillor Duran, just 1 second. Councillor McKinnon, can you just mute your mic? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Duran.
Thank you. So I think, this has raised a level of seriousness with this family. They're willing to come in and discuss things. It's not going to be an open-ended, we don't know, it could last 5 years. I think they're willing to come in and discuss an option moving forward. I just don't want to pass a resolution, demolish it when, they're residents of the city, long-serving residents of the city. I know most councillors were in the store, dealt with them. They're great people. I think they're willing to come back, sit down, and get a plan in place. And this certainly has raised that level of seriousness with them. So, I just hope that the council will vote on this, give them some more time, do our due diligence, let them do their due diligence, and get the inventory started and get something in place that we're going to, deal with all vacant properties the same, not just pick and choose one or two. Again, I hope we can deal with that. Thank you.
Councilor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I understand all the questions, and we as a council and staff and fire and police and that are not out to demolish buildings. We react on their complaints when they send them in to every councillor about properties. We pass on some that are bad shape. This is not to this extent of tearing it down. And every month or every so often when the bylaw officers went in, 10-0, no discussion. And I just want to reinstate that we are not in the business of going after certain people. I'm going to go back to, again, how much longer, like it's going on 6 years, we are willing to sit down with the family if they can give us a time frame on this property. And that's fair to the family, but we've been giving them, the cities, I don't know if it's the former CAO, whoever it was, been giving them time frames for the last 6 years. So all of a sudden, we're asking for more time. And as I said, I talked to the family member last night, and that's all I was asking them. Could you please give me a time frame so I can take this back to the police and the fire and to council? He said, I cannot give you a time frame if it's going to be 6 months, 2 years. So if it's 6 months or 2 years, we're up to 7 years, 8 years. And then we're still going to get the same complaints from the same residents that live in that area or driving through the city and saying, why is this place? And as far as buying the property, well, you buy one, you buy them all. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Councilor Beck.
Can I respond?
Just Councilor Tron, just one sec. Councilor Beck.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of things. I'm kind of going back to the building inspection part. Can we order the building inspection to be completed before we go any further here? Is that something that can be enforceable,
Councilor Ramsey.
Mr. Chair?
Councilor Ramsey,
to the chief?
just let him finish.
Yeah,
Just
so
let-
I'm asking that to the chair.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was
You're
looking.
going through
at
the
that.
chair.
Through the chair. So is that something that we can enforce? Like, because something that is new here is the idea, that's my first question. I do have another comment
I know.
after that. But is that something that can be enforced where we can say, we require this building inspection, because that seems to be one missing element that's here tonight. Is the building structurally sound? And we do not have that information yet. Is that something that can be enforced?
I'd like to answer that one.
Thank you, Your Worship, Chair. I think we can both probably answer the same. Neither department is currently, we don't have the expertise in there to do a structural engineer's job or do an engineering inspection on a building. Chief McConnell's staff, bylaw enforcement officer, does bylaw inspections. Our fire inspectors do fire inspections. They both play a role in determining the fire and life safety of a building, but they're not all encompassing, and we don't have the expertise of an engineer or a structural engineer.
But that would be a building inspector that would be going in and doing that. Can we enforce that a building inspector go in and do that? Because right now, it seems to me there's a blockade being put up that any communications has to go in through through their lawyers, through the family's lawyers.
Councilor Ramsey, can he go through you to the chief on that?
Yeah, and if we don't have building inspectors employed with the city,
Yeah, we do. They're down at the planning department.
well, we do, so then maybe we can pass that on to them. But go ahead, chiefs.
I think the question that Councilor Beck is asking, do we have the legal authority? Do we have, I think that's what's prevented it. Chief, nor am I.
Your Worship, I'd certainly want to do a little more research on that before I address council and make a recommendation on that. I think there's provisions for it, but I think like every act or bylaw, it's open for interpretation and debate, and I'd certainly like to talk to our city solicitor on that. But I guess, I'd like to bring attention to the fact that, we're still addressing just part of the complaint. The recommendation to committee was based on, under section 5.9, that the criteria has been met, that the building has been boarded up for 18 months, so that should also be considered in the, regardless of if it's structurally sound or not. Here, and certainly, I'm encouraged to hear that the family has changed its position and willing to work with us. And but I'm certainly recommend that we do that responsibly. And if there are provisions to do that allow us to do it lawfully, that we explore those avenues if we defer this resolution. Like again, we have complaints from citizens that we must respect, and I'd like to echo the chair's comments is that we are not picking on any one property owner. This is, unfortunately, we're in a reactive stance in addressing these issues of derelict properties, and although there are many across the city, we address the ones that come to our constant attention and, advise council, as it is our responsibility to do so. And I can, if council wishes or committee wishes, Your Worship, I can explore that question, but if the resolution is deferred.
Councillor Beck, no, you've spoken twice. Again, if we open that door, there's Councillor McCabe, there's Councillor Duran. I just trying to keep in the order. So what's, Councillor Ramsey, you're the chair of the committee. What's your wish based on what the Chief of Police Brad McConnell has stated and Chief Tim Mamie?
But the point of order, Your Worship.
No. What's the point of order?
The point of order is a comment by the chair is wrong, and I want to address it.
No, but that's not a point of order. That's a comment made. That's not a procedural issue. So Councillor Ramsey's just going to speak here now.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, okay,
Not
Councillor
true.
Ramsey. Councillor Ramsey.
I don't know where we're going to go from here if you basically want the truth. And the chief and the fire chief, both chiefs explained situations, and we're willing to work with the family. But my only comment is, are we going to put a time frame on it? And if we're not, well, we're going to be back here again with the same complaints from the same residents, and it's going to be other properties around the city that we're going to have the same complaints. And the only thing I asked the family member, as I said 3,000 times here, can you give me a time frame of when something that you want to sit down with us or sit down with the planning board or sit down with anybody, our CAO, and give us a time frame of what you can do. And he said, no, Kevin, I cannot do that. So I was hoping he would have phoned today and said, in 6 weeks' time or next month we have someone coming in looking at it, things along that line. I never received a phone call, and I'm not pushing to have this done. I'm just saying it's a resolution that came to us that we're like from our committee, and we're bringing it to council. And council can vote however way they want. It's not a personal thing here, and that's why there's no names being mentioned. And I know about the other properties around the city. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McAleer. You're good. Okay, Councillor McCabe, you have an amendment to make to the resolution?
Need to look at something. I'm certainly not going to, I appreciate everything Chief McConnell said tonight, and I know that Todd, our bylaw officer, works extremely hard to follow our rules. I think we have work to do on our bylaw. I think there's some uncertainty. I'd like to amend the resolution to perhaps provide a timeline give the committee a chance to kind of look at, tighten up some timelines and give the property owners, and I don't know, a proposed time. I think we have to have something in clarity in order to know if they're going along with it. But that we're working on this, and they know that this is an issue, and that if we can tighten up our bylaw, that perhaps, within the next 2 months or a month, it's planned and reported. I'm just not comfortable voting on it the way it is.
That's,
Councillor Ramsey,
oh, I'm sorry, Your Worship.
go ahead.
And I agree with you, Councillor McCabe, 100%. And that's the thing, but what kind of time frame are we as a city and council are looking at? Like, are we looking at next year at this time? Or, that's all I'm asking. You got to be a reasonable time frame.
Just
Time to go to your committee.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Councillor McCabe is offering a friendly amendment, correct? Okay. CAO Eleanor, can you add that friendly amendment to the resolution? Do you want to do, or do we'll vote separately for the friendly amendment? I just want to get her opinion first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually wouldn't suggest making a resolution on time frame tonight. I would suggest sending it back to the committee for some recommendations, because you don't only want to establish a time frame, you also need to establish what you expect to be done within that time frame in terms of resolving the issue. And I think that requires a little bit more work. And the chief has offered to also take it back and look at in terms of getting access to the building. So is it time frame to get access to the building, or is it time frame to get a site plan or something different? So I would suggest to, rather than that, send it back to the committee for more work.
Okay. Councillor McAleer, this is your second time. Just staying with the rules.
So staying with the amendment and the CAO, just what you're suggesting there, is there,
You have to defer it. Do you want to defer it?
could we not, I know Councillor McCabe suggested 60 days. Could we not be definitive, taking into account what you're saying, what you want to say, the further talk around it, that we could put a time on it of 90 days or 120, and thinking that if it's resolved before that it could come earlier?
I think the committee can, I think the CAO, correct me if I'm wrong, CAO Eleanor, that could be up to the standing committee. The standing committee can have that discussion, correct? CAO Eleanor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I would send it back to the committee, and then in terms of the motion, if those who made the motion are amenable, if we're going back to committee, I would suggest rescinding the motion for tonight instead of voting on it, because you don't know, in maybe 30 days or 60 days, we're back considering this exact motion again. So the first step, rescind. Second step, send back to committee for further investigation into some of the questions we've had
So
tonight.
the mover is Councillor Ramsey, the seconder is Councillor Beck. Do you wish to move a resolution to rescind the resolution? Councillor Ramsey? We just rescind it without a vote. Without a vote. Yeah, so on a deferral, it's voted on. Yes. So that's what I'm saying. It has to be deferred. Councillor, do you wish to?
What I would like to do is, I don't want this totally to be forgotten.
No.
So I'm okay with deferral and referral back to the committee, but not necessarily rescinding.
No.
Because I think this has some life to it, and I don't want to disregard the work that has been put into this by our professional staff.
Yeah.
And I do want to reiterate something that I think Chief McConnell said. This is balancing public expectations as well. So this isn't about one individual property, and I want everyone to be clear about that. This is about public expectations and doing what's best for the city of Charlottetown. So it's not about, we're not concentrating on one. The inventory is a part of that as well, too. But there is that balancing act, and I want to reiterate, and I thank the chief for saying that this is not a decision entered into lightly, a decision that no one wants to make, But B, we have to balance that with public expectations in terms of what people are looking for. Because if we're looking at that policy, there's stuff, we either follow that policy by particular addresses or we don't.
Right, okay.
Look at the policy, look at the addresses, deal with the property,
Okay.
or we don't.
Okay, so Councillor Ramsey, do you want to move a deferral? Go ahead.
I'll defer it.
Moved by
have a second?
Councillor Kevin Ramsey to defer, seconded by Councillor Beck.
One more.
Yeah,
if
just
I
one
may.
sec. No,
Okay.
deferral's on the floor.
Yeah.
Now people can speak again.
Okay,
So,
and my own
keep her going.
comments that we all want this, we all want to sit down with this certain families or property owners all through the city.
No, Councillor Ramsey, all we're going to do, we're not dealing with families, we're just dealing with property issues, and that's what's going to be covered
But
in
this is
the...
what I want to ask council, or does council has a timeframe of when, like, we're going to meet again in June
Yes,
on this committee.
yes.
Like, do they think things should be resolved or a plan in place by September?
No, there's not,
know, that's what I'm saying.
that'll be a committee, a standing committee discussion
Excellent.
with...
That's all I'm asking,
Right.
just trying to get that
Yeah,
straight.
no, good point. Anything to say, Councillor Beck, on the resolution? Good? Who's going to call the question? Question's called. All those in favor for the deferral of this resolution, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran,
In favor?
Councillor McKinnon,
No.
what'd you say?
No.
No, okay, so that's 7-1. All in favor, opposing is Councillor McKinnon. Okay, so we can get back to the agenda. Thank you, Chief, thank you, Chief, thank you, Deputy Chief. Okay. Well, we're on environment sustainability. Thank you very much, Jessica, for your patience. Frank Quinn, Manager of Parks, Recreation, Leisure, thank you for your patience. You too there, Sue Fraser. And Mr. Scott Adams is next door, their Chief Engineer. Please send him in. Okay. So, you're on right there, CAO? Want to go with environment sustainability resolution? We're going with environment, yeah. Yeah. Okay, we have our manager of environment sustainability here. Yes. Oh, Councillor Tweel, can someone go get Councillor Tweel? What's that? Oh, he's on the phone. He's making calls. Okay. So can we get, Jessica, do you want to start, please?
Through you, Your Worship. So this resolution is to support the purchase of 2 used diesel buses from T3 for public transit in the capital region, the purchase of 4 used diesel buses from Mississauga Bus, and the refurbishment of existing transit buses that T3 are operating. Part of this funding is from ISIP, and part of this has been outlined in the city's capital budget. I don't know if you want me to go in more detail than that, but that's the recommendation.
Who is, okay, who's the vice chair of environment sustainability? Councillor Duran, you're on the committee.
And McKinnon. Councillor McKinnon.
Diane and Trevor.
Trevor, you still there? Oh, he might have checked. Did you check out, Trevor? Well, I can't, no good ask him that. Did he check out? Okay. Do you want to address the issue there, Councillor Duran?
The issue about buying buses?
We're on the environment sustainability issue, purchase of used diesel buses.
Yeah, Transit 3 is in need of these buses. The buses are breaking down, and
Yep.
they're going to need these buses to get us through till electric buses come. So staff's recommendation is to move forward on this, and so that's why we're bringing it forward here for council to vote on. Thank you.
CAO Eleanor, could you please read the resolution? So we have the resolution on the floor.
Environment and Sustainability Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Trevor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Bob Duran. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown review and approve the purchase of 2 used diesel buses from T3 Transit at a cost of $250,000 plus tax. The purchase of 4 used diesel buses from Mississauga Bus at a cost of $375,000 plus tax, and the refurbishment of existing transit fleet from T3 Transit at a cost of $300,000 plus tax, all expensed out of the 2023-2024 city capital budget, and that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Just one second, I want to get you on.
Sure. Yeah, just a quick point of order. I don't believe Trevor can be the mover for this resolution anymore. He's no longer in the
So we-
meeting, so we need we just need a replacement mover.
Councillor Duran, is he moving it? Who's
Councillor Duran is the seconder for
Okay.
this. Yeah.
Councillor?
I'm a seconder.
Okay, Councillor McCabe is moving it. Just to put it on the floor. So it's on the floor, okay? Councillor Ramsey, then Councillor Matard.
Yes, the resolution reads that we're going to purchase 2 used diesel buses from T3 Transit. Do we not own the buses? Or is this an extra inventory that the owner has as of now?
Could I just ask,
I
Councillor
can see
Duran, Councillor Duran, can that go through to the manager?
Sure.
Okay,
So so the city owns all, or I should say the Capital Area Transit Coordinating Committee, Transit, Cornwall, Stratford, Charlottetown own the buses. But T3 has a relationship with a lot of bus companies, so we use their support to secure the buses for us because they have better contacts in that industry than we do. So we are purchasing the buses from them to be used for public transit in the capital region.
okay, Councillor Ramsey, your second time.
Yes, okay. It's just that it looks like that they have 2 buses out there at T3 on Mount Everett Road that we're purchasing from them. Like, I can see the Mississauga buses, because we're looking at 4 used diesels. But is this not basically saying that T3 Transit has 2 buses out there and we're purchasing them? Like they're in their yard and we're purchasing them?
Yeah, I would assume that they bought them. They bought them and we're buying them off
They
them.
own them?
Yeah.
They currently own
Okay, that
them,
was
and
my
we're
question,
buying
yeah.
them for, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I just thought that we owned all the buses when we bought the
We do,
company.
yeah. So they will become city buses.
When we
Right
approve
now
this, when we approve this resolution, we'll own the buses. Okay?
Thank you.
Councillor Matard?
Question to the vice chair. When I review this, some of my concerns that pop up is we're purchasing a substantial fleet of used buses to the tune of, many hundreds of thousands of dollars. One of the questions that I did notice is on the fleet of buses coming from the 4 of them, I believe it's from Mississauga, some of these buses are in excess of, and if I'm reading this correctly, like 1.1 million kilometers on these buses, or mileage, and again, probably kilometers. And they're being sold as buses are, the old saying, you're sold as is, What concerns me about that is the condition of what these buses are in and what type of operational, dollars do we have to support these in the event of, they're only giving about a 3-month warranty on the engines of these things. So I don't know, like, to me, if I was buying a car and that, 300,000 or 400,000 kilometers on the car and the guy said, I'll give you a 10-day warranty, well, I'm probably on the verge of that engine going here very soon. So, I'm a bit concerned. I mean, I'm not no bus driver or no bus owner, so I don't really know the longevity of used buses. And one might argue that's a steal at $93,000 per unit as opposed to a brand new bus. So again, I just want to put that out there for a little bit of discussion, Vice Chair.
Councillor Duran, do you want to answer that or you want to go through to the manager?
Yeah, I guess her explanation would be certainly better than mine. But I know we're in a pinch. We bought buses from Calgary before, but it's when you get 1 million miles on, I know they can take them apart, put different engines in them. These buses are built to run nonstop. So, but again, she has a better explanation than mine, so I'll defer it to her.
Manager Jessica, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Matart, and through you, Your Worship. I guess there's a few things I can say. So one is that our public transit system is not set up for electrification at the moment. That's the ultimate goal. So this was laid out to council before, that in the meantime, we would purchase used diesel buses rather than investing in new diesel buses that we would then want to use for many years. I guess the second piece I'll add to that also is that this application went to council for approval for us to apply for ISEP funding. So council has approved the purchase of these, not these specific, but has approved previously the purchase of used diesel buses for public transit. So this is in line with what has already been approved by council.
Councillor Twill.
Thank you.
I guess my concerns are somewhat an echo of Councillor Matart. So I think he raises some good points. I'm trying to get an understanding too. How old are these buses that we're buying? Is that in the background information, or did I miss it? 2008? Okay, well, I missed it. So, okay, so 2008. And then the other issue is in terms of longevity. What is the warranty, 3 months? So if the warranty's 3 months, is that the norm when buses are being purchased across the country, secondhand buses? Is that the norm in terms of warranty? Is there an expectation that the warranty's longer when you're purchasing used buses? And how many other municipalities did we look at in terms of buying used buses? I know these are, they're on a temporary basis, but how much of an inquiry was conducted before we settled on these two particular buses?
Councillor Duran, did you want to push that through to the manager? But just what you earlier said, some of these buses that are purchased with 1 million kilometers, I think you're correct, the engines are completely rebuilt. Is that what you stated?
Well, yeah, different parts can come and go. I know they can take them apart. It's not like a 2008 car that stays the same. So, that's the joy of owning these type of buses. You can put different parts in.
Yeah.
And I think, these were the best buses available to keep our system going, but I'll certainly defer to the manager.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jessica, can you also repeat that this is ISIP funding, which is Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program, which is, are they 50-cent dollars, 75-cent dollars? I think
have to double check.
It might be
Just
dollar
give
for
me 1
dollar.
second.
No, it's not dollar for dollar. It's 50-cent dollars at least. Okay, let her answer your question. Okay? Can you finish?
Thank you, Your Worship. So T3 said that they did a lot of research and comparables with other buses. It's very difficult to do procurement with used buses because it's hard to compare apples to apples, but they felt very strongly about the condition of these used buses. They became highly recommended. They're very excited about the use of these buses, and it was their recommendation and their inspection. They're the experts in the industry, so we trusted their opinion on the buses that they reviewed. They didn't just go and randomly pick a bus. They did a lot of research and background and have a lot of connections in the field, so they consulted with lots of different bus companies.
Okay, Councillor Beck, and Councillor Matart, and Councillor Twill.
Just quickly, that was my point, was that we are looking at, if I remember the discussion when Councillor Bernard and you were presenting this a while ago, Jessica, we had to basically keep the ship floated in the interim as we make our way towards electrification because there was no stock there. So we had to look at some stopgap measures. The ISIP funding is there. Our contribution goes from, $137,000. So there is, through the cost-sharing arrangement with the surrounding municipalities and with the ISIP funding, I'm comfortable with where we're at, and I would be supportive of the motion.
Councilor Matart.
Thank you to the vice chair, to the manager. Again, I thank you for the context. I think that's always important, is getting the context, and that's what I was trying to draw out. Again, I'm no bus, connoisseur of mileage and usage and longevity. I think you did a very good job of explaining the due diligence that was done in selecting these buses. They're very much needed. It's going to progress to a point of where we can get it to, where we want to be in the future with electrification of buses. So I am very supportive of moving forward with the resolution as is, based on the context that was provided to me here tonight in my question. Thank you.
Councilor Twill, second time.
With the purchase of these two new buses, are we adding more routes to the city? Are we more routes? Is it going to give us more options in terms of hours per day? Are we looking at 7 days a week and hours with the purchase of these new buses? One of the things that, we were told over the last year that we're going to be adding more routes, expanding hours. That's some of the feedback we got from residents. So does that purchase of these two buses help us in that regard? Does it position us to take on these new initiatives?
Councilor Duran, do you want to answer that? I don't know if it's relevant to what we're talking about, but do you want to answer it?
No, let's just go back to the resolution.
Yeah, let's go back to the resolution. Okay, are you calling the question?
Yes.
Okay, question's been called. All those in favor of the resolution that's in front of you, please raise your hand. Councilor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
I believe Councilor McKinnon has left the room. Okay. Councilor McKinnon. 8-0. Do we have, is that it, Jessica? Thank you very much, Jessica, for your patience. Okay, Mr. Frank Quinn, Parks, Recreation, Leisure, and Activities Resolutions. Did you want to speak to it first, Councilor Twill? Or do you just want to go right to the resolutions? Do you want to speak to it first, or do you want to go right to the resolutions? Okay, let's go to the first one. Founders Hall. Founders Hall.
Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Mitchell Twill, seconded by Councillor Justin Matart. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown accepts the bid of $38,900 plus applicable taxes from Island Coastal Limited to complete the landscaping at Founders Hall Green Space associated with the Canada Games Portable Artificial Outdoor Rink Project, and that the amount of $4,828 plus applicable taxes from Coles Associates for professional services be accepted, and further that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute any standard contracts or agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay. Questions called? Questions called on the resolution. Okay, questions called. All in favor, please raise your hand. And Councilor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
8, okay, 8-0. Got another one there, CAO?
Thank you.
Eleanor?
Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Activities, Resolution Number 2, moved by Councillor Mitchell Twill, seconded by Councillor Justin Matart. Be it resolved that as per the recently advertised request for proposals for the 2023 Confederation Landing Boardwalk Replacement Project, the City of Charlottetown accepts the low bid from Spera Construction in the amount of $93,450 plus applicable taxes, and that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute any standard contracts or agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay. Questions called again, that's great. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, Councilor Duran? Yay?
In favor.
Okay, 8-0. Is that the report there, Frank? Frank Quinn, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for your enduring power. Okay, next item is new business. No, sorry, Public Works. And we have the chief engineer here. Mr. Scott Adams. Okay. Did you want to go right to the resolutions, Madam Chair? Go
I
ahead.
just had a good question from Councillor Beck, he was asking why we have Package A and Package B for tendering when it came to paving, and I thought you provided a really quick, good explanation in our committee, and maybe you could just explain why you have 2 tender packages going out.
Certainly, Your Worship. So the reason why I went to 2 tender package was to essentially try to get the competitive bid. What can happen when you put out 2 similar tenders is the first bid comes in and one contractor gets over another one. What may happen if you, the next day or when the next one closes, that one that didn't get one, if they really wanted it, they need the work or whatever, they might sharpen their pencil. The contractor that was low bid the first one may be concerned the other one's going to try to be lower bid and sharpen their pencil. So it's a way to create competition in the market to try to get the best price for the city. And we are very happy with the pricing that came in this round.
Okay. Is that all right, Councillor Beck? You're now informed about tendering here at the City of Charlottetown. Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. You got a couple of resolutions there, CAO. Eleanor?
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're doing a great job.
Public Works Committee Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Julie McCabe, seconded by Councillor John McAleer. Be it resolved that as per the conditions of public tender for 2023 street resurfacing Package A, the submission of the Island Construction Limited in the amount of $1,242,446 plus all applicable taxes be accepted, and that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Drawn, yea or nay?
In favor?
Okay. Number 2.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Julie McCabe, seconded by Councillor John McAleer. Be it resolved that as per the conditions of public tender for 2023 street resurfacing Package B, the submission of Island Construction Limited in the amount of $1,449,000, $425.30 plus all applicable taxes be accepted, and that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay. Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Drawn?
In favor?
Okay. As always, Mr. Adams, thank you very much, and hopefully baby Leo's doing well. Thank you, sir. Okay. Okay, next item is the advisory committees, appointments to city advisory committees, appointments to additional boards. 2 resolutions. Number 1 is, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Deputy Mayor Alana Yankov, seconded by Councillor Kevin Ramsey. Be it resolved that effective immediately, the following appointments to city boards as recommended by His Worship, Mayor Philip Brown, be approved. For the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, J.W. Bill Campbell, Rebecca Condon, Anne Marie Townsend, Ellen Mullally, Kevin Smith, and R.M. Bob Foster. Arts and Culture Advisory Board, Carol Horn, Stephen McInnes, Patricia Burek, I'm trying my best.
All right, you're doing a great
Monica
job.
Lacey, Renee
Laprise.
Laprise, Robert
Sonos.
Sonos, and Omar Broderick. Civic Board for Persons with Disabilities, Allison Faithful, Ryan Bulger, Anthony Welsh, Linda Clark, Allison Galley, Glenn Flood, and Judith Bayless.
Bayless.
My apologies. Design Review Board, the first name noted here, Donna Miller-Ayton. The good news is that the city has actually hired her as a brand new planner too, so she will not be on the Design Review Board. But
So
she'll be
just
working
remove
with the
her
city.
name.
That announcement's coming soon.
It's already made, it's live streamed.
Yes, internally, so there you
Thanks,
go.
thanks for the credit.
Welcome, Donna. Aaron.
And you won't be
Aaron-
getting the $100.
Aaron Stavert, Brian Gillis, Ken McInnes, and Mary Nicholson. And the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, Mohammed Lehub, Rose Ellen Giz, Donna Casford, Selvi Roy, Praga Chowdhury, Gassan Kassouf and Joanna Morrison. Heritage Board, Emily Gallant, Lucas MacArthur, Bobby Kenny, Aaron Stavert, Sharon Larder, and Tara Maloney.
And just one correction, that's Emile Gallant. Emile. Yeah.
Emile, my apologies.
Yeah.
Planning, it's always tough with names. I don't know how teachers do it.
You just wing it.
Planning Board, again, Donna will not be on this board. Rosemary Herbert, Paul Connolly, Basil Hambley, Chris Fournier, Jackie Scammon, and Sachiat Sen.
Yeah. Can you wait for the resolution just to read and then, okay, you're looking for one name that's not there? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's a vacancy. There's no talking about that. But you're thinking just wait.
Yeah.
Seniors Engagement Committee, Jacinta Campbell, Joannis Ings, Darlene Hughes, Shelley Higgins, Bruce McIsaac, Anita McCabe, and Jay Nogler. Youth Engagement Committee, Max McDonald, Colton Profit, Yi Ding,
Yeah.
Nathan Metzger, Rafael Mendez Morales, Marina Pogrebinina,
Progbenia?
yes, and Joe Kirkos.
Kirkos. Okay, there's the rest. Councillor Twill, you want to,
Since there's a vacancy on planning board, for council's consideration, I'd like to recommend for continuity's sake, Robert Kenny.
he's already in Heritage Board.
He's on Heritage Board.
Yeah. And Councillor Twill, we've discussed this. I've discussed this with some others because I know you don't want to be involved with planning because of family conflict.
Right.
We just see that there's some dynamics that are required in that.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I just thought since there was a vacancy,
And-
I know Mr. Kenny expressed his wishes. He enjoyed planning board, and I just thought I'd bring his name up. That's all.
But he's on Heritage Board, okay?
I know, but I think you're well aware he prefers the dynamics of planning board.
Yeah.
And he does attend. He did. In all fairness to him, he did attend all the public meetings. He was very consistent, very diligent in his efforts. And when I saw the vacancy, I saw this as an opportunity to bring the gentleman's name up.
Okay. Councillor Yankoff? Oh,
That's
sorry,
all.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff, you're the chair of Planning, Heritage, and Development.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Twill, for recognizing that. I can tell you as Chair of Planning and Heritage, I am quite thrilled to have Mr. Kenny on Heritage Board because over the next few years, we have a lot of hard decisions to make, and we certainly need a voice like his on Heritage Board. And I do recognize that he has had 2 amazing terms on our planning board and has been a very valid member of that board. But I also see that we have a huge population, and we have had many, many requests for folks looking to be active on planning board. So I look forward to the mayor relooking at that very long list of applicants for planning board. And I certainly hope that Mr. Kenny will accept his position on the Heritage Board if council so decides to vote that way this evening, because I certainly, as chair of this committee, certainly would really, really like to have him. Thank you.
No. Councillor Matard.
Oh.
And then Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, yeah. I think in just recognizing too that Mr. Kenny, did express an interest to be on the planning board, although knowing he's on Heritage, there's a vacancy there. There are some returning people to the planning board, so I respect that you indicated that there would be some desires to put some new people on there, but it's not fully across the board on that. But nonetheless, if I know that there was an expression for that to happen, but I thought I'd just bring that up as well. So thank you.
Councillor Ramsey.
Yes, and could you explain, do these boards go for 2 years, or are they for the 4-year term?
Councillor Ramsey, that's a good point. I've raised that. There will be a review in 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Councillor
much.
Patrick. Just 1 second. Go.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would support that, what Councillor Twill was saying. There are, if it is a question, I do know that Bobby would prefer planning board. He thinks that's more of his area of interest. And I think if we're going to have people on the heritage board, I think we have to have people who have strong interest in heritage. And judging by what I know, I don't think that's Mr. Kenny's area of expertise or area of interest. So don't know whether that's maybe a more compatible fit. So I would be supportive of, we do have Rosemary Herbert's returning, Paul Connolly's returning, Basil Hamley's returning. I think they were all around the same time. They've all been in there around the same amount of
Conley
time.
just came in last year.
Or he replaced somebody partway
Yes,
through.
Reg McGinnis.
Okay. So I don't know. I would be supportive of that, and then we could look at the because we are going to have to fill Donna Miller-Ayton on the what's her other one, the design review board as well too. So we'll have to go back and look at.
See, Donna was on both design and planning because she's got that planning background. So there's
Yeah.
a liaison.
Yeah, and we have had people who've been on two boards.
Yeah.
So I would be supportive of adding Bobby to planning if he wants to stay in heritage. But we can, if there's someone else who we feel that we didn't put in there or you didn't put in there that we could put in that might be a fit.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff, second.
My second time. Just to reiterate, and I hope Mr. Kenny's listening because he's a very valued member of these boards that we have. So if we are going to agree that we put Mr. Kenny back to planning board, I would ask us folks to still approve him on heritage because I, as chair of these committees, I need a voice like that. And if we are going to put him on both, let's hope he will agree to sit on this committee with me for Heritage Board as well, because we have a lot of work to do in the next few years on heritage. So,
Councillor Twill, second time.
Can I speak
Len?
after him?
Yeah.
And when Mr. Kenny contacted me, I asked him that very question. You're on Heritage, and if the question comes up, would you be willing to sit on Heritage and Planning? He said, absolutely.
Deputy Mayor, I think on that, the reason we have someone that sits on both is because of an expertise they may have. And I don't know if that expertise would be with Mr. Kenny, but we do have someone that, and I'll get into it. Councillor Duran, do you want to talk?
Well, it's the same thing as the rest of the councillors. I think, he attended lots of planning board meetings or public meetings. He could sit on both. Just, I think, with all these people, just his name comes up. So, I mean, just to put him on planning and keep everybody happy and working together, the chair said, if he could work on both, that would be tremendous. So, I'd certainly support that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just from yesterday's meeting, Deputy Mayor, Simon Moore, who was on the committee, sits on the board. He was out of the country, and he did offer to continue sitting on Heritage Board. So if you wish, we can replace Simon and move Mr. Kenny where he wishes to go, supported by Councillors Beck and Twill. Deputy?
if that is amendable, well, I can't even say that word, I sound like Julie McCabe, it's too late in the night, no. If that is the wish of the rest of council, that would be fine with me. Yep, and then it's not.
And that's your recommendation.
Okay, so Simon Moore, if you go to Heritage Board, take Bob Kenny off, put Simon Moore. And then Planning Board would be Bob Kenny, correct? Yes. So we have to find someone on Planning Board that can sit on both, and that could be Jackie Skyman. Do you know her CAO, Eleanor? She's got a master's in planning.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I don't. I might suggest maybe going back to the applications that were received and then just reviewing who's qualified and then also having conversation with some of these individuals whether they have the capacity to serve on multiple boards or not, and then we could come back to another meeting and appoint those individuals.
So what are you suggesting? Stay as is?
For tonight, thank you, Worship, I would suggest to go with who you have in that resolution that's just been read out.
Okay.
And then come back with any changes you might need to make.
Good? Good? Questions called? Okay.
So just 1 second there for a point of order here.
Oh, did you want to speak there? This is your second term, a second time? Go ahead there.
Second, am I getting something confused? Like, we agreed to put Bobby on planning, is that correct?
What we're going to do,
CAO?
could you explain again, CAO, Eleanor?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Duran. What's being suggested here is that we go with the list as is tonight, with which in the resolution we struck Donna off that list simply because we've hired Donna. And what's being suggested is there was an application process for this, so the applications be reviewed based on qualifications and what fits and capacity. So names that were suggested tonight very well could come back to this committee, but we just come back a separate night and appoint those individuals once that process has taken place.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. But I think, council has sat here and suggested a change of a name or two, and his worship had said, put Simon there and take Don out. Why can't we just agree to that now and move on? Why are we going back?
We're just respecting the process, Councillor Duran. That's what we're doing. Okay.
Oh, well, you can't take one name off and move it and not put Simon's on.
Well, we
Come on.
we can't
50 names
we
there.
can't have Donna Miller Ayton on the committee because she works for us. Yeah.
Well, then let's not put anything on.
Well, that's what we're saying.
Defer all this to the next meeting.
And then we're going to come back. Okay.
So we're deferring everything then?
No, we're just voting on what we have in front of us, and then we'll come back with the changes that are required. Okay.
I'm not going to support.
No. Question was called. All those in favor? Okay. No. Question was called. All those in favor of the resolution?
Not in favor.
I would rather deal with it now, so I'm not going
Okay. So it's. Okay. It's. I got 4-5 to 3. Okay. So that's the vote. So we'll come back. Okay. 5-3. Okay. Next resolution.
Just a point of order. For all these folks, they're all great people that are being recommended. Do they all live in the city of Charlottetown?
Yes, they do.
None of them live outside.
I know they don't. Yeah.
How do you know that?
Because it was listed in their application and in the information I received from Human Resources. That's part of the process. Okay.
So you went through the applications too?
Yes, sir. I did.
Okay.
101.
Okay.
Okay. Next resolution.
Thank you, Your Worship. New business resolution number 2. Moved by Deputy Mayor Elena Yankoff, seconded by Councillor Kevin Ramsey. Be it resolved that effective immediately the following appointments as recommended by His Worship Mayor Philip Brown be approved. Canadian Capital Cities Organization Board of Directors, Councillor Norman Beck. Capital Area Recreation Incorporated, Sean Murphy, Michael James, Donna Profit, and Wayne Long. Charlottetown Area Development Corporation, Craig Walker and Jerry Moore. Charlottetown Harbor Authority Board, Don Love. PEI Arts Guild Board, Doug Dumais. Remuneration and Indemnities Commission, Lori Pendleton, Ken DeRoche, and Brian Hooley. Special Events Reserve Fund, Emma McKenzie.
Questions called. Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, the Eastlink Board, that's not on here, is that for a reason?
We have to follow their constitution, and I think, maybe it wasn't Sue, it was Jackie, she said that the next appointment for that board will come up in 2025, because it goes for 2 years, 3 years, and what? and they rotate out. Yeah. So I think the next rotation, Councillor McCabe, would be 2025. Okay. Councillor McAleer.
Your Worship, just more of a composition question with these boards in general, like you see 6, 7, 8 names. Is there any kind of, I don't know, maximum number, ideal number to have when you look at putting numbers of people's on boards? Is there, what goes through your mindset? For the most part, I guess there are appointments of the mayor. Is there, what goes through your mind when you think of numbers? What you think?
If you look at the Capital Area Recreation Inc., Sean Murphy, Mike James, Donna Prophet, Wayne Long, they're coming from the last term. Don Love, as you know, was on the board for the last 4 years. Special Events Reserve Fund, Emma McKenzie, she has a affiliation to event planning, so that was a reason for putting her on that board. So there's various ways of. Okay, Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, and I guess I was thinking of the first round there where there were, just the numbers like 6, 7, 8, 8 people. Is there any kind of in your opinion, any kind of an optimum number? How do you determine if it's going to be 4, 6, 8, 9?
For those boards?
Yeah.
It's determined by those organizations. Kerry has 7 members. We have the majority shareholding position, like we own 87%.
No, yeah.
The resolution that's on the floor
Okay.
is what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, well, actually, I meant the other one, but
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay,
Another day, thanks.
okay. Councillor Ramsey.
Everyone get a stipend on this board, on these
don't
boards?
I don't know.
It's a crazy question, but I'm just asking,
Yeah, I
because
don't-
some are city employees, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't know.
You don't know that?
No.
So that's all run by?
That's up to the boards.
Oh, yeah, they're all run by the boards. Okay, no, that's fair. Oh, yeah, Norman Beck always gets a stipend.
Were you on the board last year? No. Okay,
Oh, yeah, Norman Stipend Beck.
question. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Drawn.
No on the process.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, you know what? That's a good meeting. Here we are. 7:50. Motion to adjourn? All in favor? Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thanks, Tracy.